I was reborn on the day my parents decided to send me to a rural estate. This time I did not cry or make a scene. Instead, I willingly followed my lame uncle away. The false heiress laughed at me for willingly lowering myself. 5 years later, however, my uncle's name would be cleared and he would be made a marquis, while the marquis household she was so proud of would be confiscated for treason. Joning, your younger sister is frail. She cannot endure all the gossip, my mother said gently. Go stay at Kuliu estate for a while. Once you have learned the proper rules, mother will naturally bring you home. Her voice was as soft as spring rain, yet as I knelt on the cold blue bricks, my knees ached as if they were about to shatter. In this life, my knees had not yet been injured, but the pain seemed to crawl out of the bones of my previous life, travel through my flesh, and burrow straight into my heart. I raised my head. My father, Shen Chongchuan, sat in the place of honor, slowly turning a jade thumb ring around his finger. Impatience showed plainly between his brows. My eldest brother, Shen Huaijin, stood behind him and looked at me as if I were nothing more than a troublesome, disobedient child. My mother, Gu Yunshu, held Shen Mingju protectively in her arms. Mingju wore a sunset-colored brocade dress and a hairpin set with an eastern pearl from my mother's dowry. Her eyes were rimmed red, as though the person about to be sent to a desolate estate to suffer were not me, but her. I had already died once, so I remembered this scene with painful clarity. In my previous life I had wept and begged on this very day. I clung to my mother's skirt and promised that I could live in the most remote courtyard, that I would never compete with Mingju, and that I would study the rules of the marquis household day and night. I begged them not to abandon me again. I had wandered among common people for 12 years before my birth parents finally found me. Naturally, I believed I had finally found a home, but father thought my crying was humiliating. He ordered 2 old maids to drag me away. Mother held Mingju and repeatedly told me that they were not abandoning me, they only wanted me to leave for a while. I believed her, and I stayed in the marquis household. To prove that I was worthy of being its legitimate daughter, I knelt while learning etiquette, stayed up all night studying account books, and took over 3 estates that mother had allowed to fall into deficit. When Shen Mingju broke an imperial jade screen, I accepted the blame. When my eldest brother secretly diverted military grain, I covered the missing accounts for him. When father ordered me to copy military grain transport documents, I knew there was something suspicious in them, but because he said, "This is the first time your father has entrusted you with an important task," I did not dare ask questions. Later, when the treason case erupted, the Dingyuan marquis household needed someone to bear the blame. They chose me. Mother held my hand and said, "You only need to admit that you diverted 4 shipments of military grain. Mother will keep you alive." My eldest brother also said, "You have suffered before. Your health is better than Mingju's. Even if you are exiled, you will survive." I was locked in a heavy wooden kang and escorted out of the capital. I died on the road to exile without ever seeing the rescue they had promised. Before my death, I heard the escort officers mention my maternal uncle, Gu Chenglan, whom the entire capital mocked as a lame convicted official. He had tried to stop the prison cart, but he died the night before it left the city. He had not died from an old illness. Medicine laced with poison had slowly destroyed his heart over the years. And the true mastermind behind the military grain case that ruined the Gu family 5 years earlier had been my own father. The household I had spent my entire life trying to enter had regarded me from the beginning as an escape route they could discard whenever necessary. Now I had returned to the very day they sent me away. When mother saw that I remained silent, she softened her voice. "Jiaoning, mother knows you feel wronged, but Mingju has lived in the marquis household for 15 years. Everyone in the capital considers her the Shen family's legitimate daughter. Your sudden return will inevitably cause gossip. It would be better for you to stay at the estate for a while." The hall fell silent when I finally spoke. Mother seemed not to understand me. I pressed one hand to the floor, rose, and slowly brushed the dust from my skirt. "All right," I said. The tears gathered in Shen Mingju's eyes froze. She had probably prepared a speech to comfort me and planned to display her kindness and generosity when I lost control. But I agreed too quickly, and she no longer knew how to continue. My eldest brother frowned. "What trick are you trying to play now?" "Father wants me to go to the estate, so I will go." I looked toward the seat of honor, but since Kulu estate is to be the place where I settle, I ask father to formally transfer the deed to me. Father stopped turning his jade ring. Why would a girl who has not yet come of age need an estate deed? So that after I have lived there for a few days, the marquis household cannot suddenly claim the estate is not mine and force me to move again. His gaze instantly turned cold. Are you guarding against your own father? Even blood brothers should keep clear accounts. Father taught me that principle. Kulyu estate was worthless in the Shen family's eyes. The soil was alkaline, the irrigation canal had dried up, the granary was half collapsed, and the tenant farmers owed 3 years of taxes. Father had chosen it for another reason. A man who knew the truth about the military grain case 5 years earlier was secretly imprisoned there. 3 days from now, a fire would destroy the old granary. The former accountant would die in the flames, and the half-tally that could prove the military grain had been rerouted would disappear forever. Father believed that once the granary burned, Kulyu estate would have no remaining value. If I asked for a wasteland, he would only think me foolish. Sure enough, after a moment of silence, he said, "The estate can be given to you, but you are not yet of age and cannot hold property independently. Uncle can act as my guardian." As soon as I finished speaking, the steady tap of a wooden cane sounded against the bricks outside the hall. Gu Chenglan stood at the threshold. He wore an old robe washed nearly white, and his frame was thin. His right leg was stiff. 5 years earlier, he had been the youngest military grain transport commissioner in Shuozhou. Now when people in the capital mentioned him, they only called him a lame, convicted official. No one in the hall greeted him. Mother even avoided his eyes. In my previous life, he had also come to take me away on this day. Back then, I despised his poverty and feared that leaving with him would cause me to lose my status as the Marquis household's legitimate daughter. I had shaken off his hand in front of everyone and cried that my surname was Shen, not Gu. He had not blamed me. He merely left the cloak he had prepared for me beside the door and walked alone into the snow. That old cloak remained at the bottom of my chest for years. When I was exiled, I was not allowed to take it with me. Gu Chenglan looked at me, his voice as cool and restrained as ever. "I only came to ask one thing. If you do not wish to go to the estate, you may come with me." Shen Mingju laughed softly. "Uncle's courtyard may not even be as spacious as the Marquis household stable. If elder sister truly leaves with him, she must not regret it later." Chenglan's hand tightened slightly around his cane. I walked down the steps, stopped in front of him, and reached out to hold with Uncle. His entire body stiffened. "Have you thought it through?" "I have." I looked directly into his eyes. "This time I choose you." Gu Chenglan was silent for a long time. Then he lifted an old cloak and placed it over my shoulders. His movements were awkward, but he carefully gathered the collar around my neck. Father ordered someone to prepare the transfer deed. The original draft stated that the Marquis household could reclaim the estate at any time. I pointed it out on the spot, demanded a new deed, asked a government-licensed broker to witness the transfer, and required that it be registered with the capital prefecture. Father's expression grew darker with every correction. "Shen Jiaoning, are you really going to take matters this far merely out of spite?" "This is not spite." I accepted the rewritten deed and blew the ink dry. "Everything is written clearly in black and white. That allows everyone to feel secure." When I left, I did not take the jewelry, fine clothes, or servants the Marquis household had prepared. I took only the medicine-scented wooden case my foster mother had left me, and the protective knot that had accompanied me for 12 years. Mother followed me to the gate. "Jiaoning, you will not even take the things Mother gave you?" For a moment, I paused. In my previous life, I had asked her the same question. "Mother, do you truly not want even me?" The answer no longer mattered. "Leave those things for younger sister." Wrapped in Uncle's old cloak, I stepped out of the Marquis household. Behind me came Mingju's suppressed laughter. She could have remained a Marquis's daughter, yet she insists on guarding a wasteland with a cripple. Elder sister truly chooses degradation for herself. I did not look back. 5 years later, she would learn what kind of foundation supported the glory of the household she was so proud of. She was to also see how the lame convicted official she despised would walk into the imperial court with his cane. The carriage left the long street. I clutched the estate deed. "Uncle, we must go to Kulyu estate tonight." Gu Chenglan frowned. "You have only just left the household. You should rest first." I looked at the darkening sky beyond the city. "Someone intends to burn the granary." He did not ask how I knew. He merely looked at me once, then ordered the driver to head out of the city. His trust came so easily that my nose stung with sudden emotion. In my previous life I had spoken countless truths, yet no one had believed me. In this life I said only one sentence. An uncle took me through the night to Kulyu estate. The estate lay more than 40 li from the capital. Wind rose at dusk and the carriage leaked cold air from every side. Wrapped in Uncle's cloak, I repeatedly recalled the fire from my previous life. At that time, I had been sent to another estate to learn the rules. The servants said Kulyu estate's granary had burned at night and that an old accountant, drunk on stolen wine, had died inside. Years later, while sorting father's old accounts, I discovered that Qianfu had not been an ordinary accountant. He had served as a junior clerk under Gu Chenglan, responsible for inspecting military grain. After the military grain case, the Shen family secretly imprisoned him at Kuliu Estate for 5 full years. Father kept him alive only because the missing half of the military grain tally had never been found. Once the tally was destroyed, Qianfu would no longer need to live. By the time we reached Kuliu Estate, night had fallen completely. The gate was dilapidated and creaked whenever the wind blew. Several tenant farmers huddled outside the kitchen around a fire. They stared in surprise when they saw us. The steward Zhou Mao hurried out to meet us. Tongue oil stained his cuffs. "Why has the young lady come in the middle of the night? The Marquis only said you would arrive in a few days. The estate has not yet been prepared. Perhaps you should first." "The estate belongs to me now." I opened the deed. "Do I need your permission to arrive?" His smile stiffened. "I only meant, where is the granary?" Zhou Mao's eyes shifted. "The old granary was abandoned long ago. There is nothing inside but rotten timber." A muffled sound suddenly came from the granary. My expression turned cold. "There is someone inside." Zhou Mao turned to flee, but Gu Chenglan swept his cane across the man's knees. Zhou Mao fell heavily to the ground. At the same moment, several estate servants carrying wooden buckets drew short knives and rushed at us. Uncle's right leg was disabled, yet he still stepped in front of me, his cane turned in his hand. The first strike knocked a blade away. The second struck an attacker's wrist. I did not stand still and wait for him to protect me. Dried licorice had been piled around the granary. Once the fire started, the entire estate would burn. I seized a shovel, leaning against the wall, and shouted at the stunned tenant farmers, "Unless you want to burn to death with this place, come dig open the canal." No one moved. Then a woman in her 30s stepped out of the crowd. Her features were strong and spirited, and an old scar crossed her left hand. She was Liu Niang. Her husband had once been one of Uncle's soldiers. In my previous life, he was beaten to death for stealing grain from the Marquis household. I later learned that he had stolen only to feed several orphans on the estate. Liu Niang grabbed a shovel. "Do as the young lady says." Once someone took the lead, the others finally followed. An abandoned irrigation channel ran beside the granary. Zhou Mao lay on the ground and laughed coldly. "That channel has been dry for years. You can dig until your hands break and still find no water." I ignored him. In my previous life, I had studied Kuliu Estate's terrain. The canal was not truly dead. Someone had blocked the underground spring. If we dug through the last 3 feet of earth, the water would return. "There's water!" Liu Niang cried after a final strike. Icy spring water burst from the ground. At almost the same instant, flames leaped from the rear window of the granary. Someone had already set the fire. "Fetch water! Put it out!" The tongue oil caused the fire to spread quickly. Fortunately, the reopened spring filled the channel. The tenant farmers passed buckets from hand to hand, barely holding the flames to the back half of the granary. I snatched the keys from Zhou Mao's waist and opened the door. Thick smoke rushed into my face. Gu Chenglan caught my wrist. "You stay outside. Qianfu is in there." His expression changed. "How do you know?" There was no time to explain. I tore off my cloak, soaked it in water, covered my nose and mouth, and rushed inside. The granary was filled with rotten wood and empty chests. Violent coughing came from the deepest corner. An old man with graying hair was chained to a post. An overturned wine jar had deliberately been placed at his feet so that Zhou Mao could claim he had drunkenly caused the fire. I tried the keys, but none fit the lock. Above us, a roof beam cracked. "Miss Leave," Qianfu shouted hoarsely. "They are not burning me. They are burning the accounts." I looked up and saw an iron box hidden inside the roof beam. The next moment, Gu Chenglan rushed through the smoke. He wedged his cane into the chain and forced it sideways until the lock snapped. "Take him out! The box is in the beam. I see it." He hooked the iron box down with his cane. A burning plank crashed from above. I supported Qianfu and ran toward the door. Behind me came a heavy impact. "Uncle!" When I turned, a fallen plank had blocked Gu Chenglan's path. Firelight illuminated his face. In my previous life, I had not even seen him before he died. At that moment, the last strand of my reason nearly snapped. I handed Qianfu to Liu Niang, who had rushed inside, and turned back toward the flames. Together, Liu Niang and I pulled the plank aside. Gu Chenglan staggered out through the fire, leaning heavily on his charred cane. His right leg had clearly been hurt, but he still held the iron box tightly against his chest. By the time the fire was extinguished, dawn had begun to brighten the horizon. Zhou Mao and the other attackers were tied beneath a tree. Liu Niang searched them and found the Marquis household steward's token, tongue oil, and a note ordering them to clear the granary tonight. I immediately sent someone to report the matter to the county office. Gu Chenglan warned me, once the authorities become involved, the Shen family will know Qianfu is still alive. That is exactly why we must report it. A secretly imprisoned man can die and be called an accident. But if a registered witness suddenly dies after his name appears in an official case record, everyone will suspect an attempt to silence him. Gu Chenglan studied me for a long time. Qianfu leaned against the wall and asked in a hoarse voice, "Young lady, are you truly Shen Chongchuan's daughter? By blood? Then why did you save me?" I opened the iron box. It held no complete account book, only several charred grain slips and half of a bronze tally. The front was engraved with the words Shuozhou Transport Office. On the back was a tiny private seal bearing the character Shen. I placed it before Qianfu. "Because I want to know who framed my uncle 5 years ago." Qianfu's lips trembled for a long time. General Gu did not sell the military grain. Gu Chenglan tightened his grip on his cane. Where did the grain go? It was sent by another route. Qianfu closed his eyes. 5 years ago, 30,000 shi of military grain reached Beilang Ford. An urgent order from the Ministry of War rerouted it. Empty carts went on to the Shoujo garrison, while the real grain was transported north along the Shen family's medicinal goods route. Who issued the order? I only saw the transport document. Qianfu pointed to the private seal on the tally. It bore the seal of the Dingyuan Marquis household. A gust of wind blew through the damaged granary. Qianfu suddenly noticed the medicine pouch at Gu Chenglan's waist. He seized it, poured out several pills, and smelled them. His face turned deathly pale. "General Gu, how long have you been taking these?" 5 years. Qianfu's fingers shook violently. "This is not medicine for your leg. It is medicine that will kill you." Gu Chenglan picked up one pill and slowly crushed it between his fingers. "Yunshu sends it every month." His tone remained calm, but the pill turned to powder in his hand. Before mother married, she and uncle had been close. After the Gu family fell, she never publicly sought justice for him, but she sent money and medicine every month. The entire capital praised the Dingyuan Marchioness for remembering old affection and showing every possible kindness to her convicted elder brother. In my previous life, I believed that too. Now it seemed those gentle acts of care might have been a noose. At dawn I sent Liu Niang 30 li away to bring Uncle Song. He had once served as a military physician on the frontier. After the Gu family was convicted, he withdrew to the countryside. In my previous life, he died of illness 2 years later. Before his death, he had tried to send Uncle a letter warning that both the traveling merchant involved at the time and the prescription were suspicious, but the Marquis household intercepted it before it arrived. When Uncle Song reached the estate, he examined the pills and took Gu Chenglan's pulse. His expression grew steadily darker. The pills contained small amounts of aconite and a poisonous vine known as heartbreak vine. A few doses would not kill a man, but years of use would damage the heart. For the past 2 years, have you often felt tightness in your chest, suffered night sweats, or noticed your fingers trembling? Gu Chenglan nodded. Uncle Song slammed his fist onto the table. They were not treating your leg. They wanted you to die quietly from an old illness. Silence filled the room. I looked at my uncle. He did not rage. He merely put the pills back into the medicine pouch. "Why keep them?" Uncle Song demanded. "Evidence," Gu Chenglan and I answered at the same time. He turned toward me. For the first time, the faintest smile appeared in his eyes. "You learn quickly." Uncle Song wrote a new prescription. Gu Chenglan's leg bone had been broken under torture, and treatment had been delayed too long while he was in prison. It could never fully recover. But if he stopped taking the poison and cared for himself, at least he would not die of heart failure as he had in my previous life. That was enough. When the county officers took Zhou Mao away, I deliberately invited the village head and nearby tenant farmers to witness the inventory of tung oil, knives, and the Marquis household token. The more clearly the case was recorded, the harder it would be for the Shen family to make Zhou Mao disappear without explanation. Sure enough, the Marquis household sent someone the following day. Steward Zhao, one of father's trusted men, arrived with more than a dozen armed guards. He entered with a grim face. "The young lady left in such haste yesterday that the Marquis later discovered an error in the estate deed. One character in the estate's name is incorrect, so the gift deed is invalid. I was reviewing the land registers in the courtyard and did not even lift my eyes." "Which character?" "This place was originally called Guliu Estate, not Kuliu Estate." I opened the government records. In the 21st year of the late emperor's Jinghe reign, the 3 ancient willows north of the estate died, and Guliu Estate was renamed Kuliu Estate. The land register, tax register, local register, and government archive all record it. Steward Zhao, you did not even verify the estate's name before bringing armed men to seize it. His expression stiffened. Even if the deed is valid, the young lady is too young. The Marquis fears you are being deceived. He looked at Gu Chenglan. The Gu family can barely protect itself. What qualification does he have to serve as guardian to the Marquis household's legitimate daughter? Gu Chenglan sat beneath the veranda sharpening an old blade. He did not even raise his head. I closed the registers. The gift deed has already been registered at the capital prefecture. If father considers it improper, he may petition the court to revoke it. Steward Zhao sneered. Young lady, do not forget that the Marquis is your birth father. That is why I have not yet reported him for arson and attempting to murder a witness. I lifted my gaze. But if you lead armed men into my estate, I will report you immediately. The tenant farmers lowered their tools and gathered behind me. They had seen the Marquis household steward set the fire. They had also seen Uncle and me risk our lives to save a prisoner. People do not give their loyalty merely because someone speaks kindly, but they remember who treated them as human beings when danger came. Steward Zhao's face darkened. Are you truly going to break with the Marquis household for a few lowly peasants? Liu Niang laughed first. Every one of the lowly peasants you mention has a name in the government's land register. But your men entered an estate carrying knives. They look far more like bandits. I produced another document. Kuliu estate owes 3 years of taxes, a total of 172 taels. The gift deed states that all past taxes remain the responsibility of the Marquis household. Please tell father to settle them within 7 days. Otherwise, I will ask the capital prefecture why a hereditary Marquis household has repeatedly failed to pay land taxes. Steward Zhao left with his men in disgrace. Only then did Gu Chenglan put down his sharpening stone. You understand very well what the Shen family values most. Father values his reputation. And if he decides he no longer needs it, then the law will deal with him. I handed him the medicine Uncle Song had prepared. He did not take it at once. Why are you so wary of the Shen family? I lived there for half a year. That was enough to see many things. You are only 15. A 15-year-old still knows when something hurts. He was silent for a long time. Then he took the bowl and drank the medicine in one swallow. Afterward, he rose with the support of his cane. From today onward, Uncle Sosong will personally inspect every medicinal ingredient used at the estate. Everything sent by the Shen family will be sealed and stored. Then he looked at everyone in the courtyard. Shen Zhouning left the Marquis household with me. From this day forward, she is a member of the Gu family. Anyone who insults her insults me. Wind passed over the broken courtyard wall. I stood beside him and my eyes suddenly burned. In my previous life, I had exhausted myself trying to make the Shen family acknowledge me as their daughter. Uncle gave me a home with a single sentence. That evening, a green canopied carriage stopped outside the estate gate. A young man stepped down. He appeared to be about 19 and wore a simple blue robe. No jade ornament hung from his waist, only an inconspicuous wooden token. Yet when his feet touched the ground, his stance was stable, and the driver's palms bore calluses left by years of handling weapons. He introduced himself as Xiao Sanlang, a northern medicinal goods merchant. I heard Miss Shen rescued an old accountant yesterday and brought an iron box out of the granary. I would like to know what was inside. I looked at him. Young Master Xiao claims to trade in medicinal goods. Why are you interested in an abandoned granary? A merchant must collect information. I also conduct business. I pointed toward the gate, but I do not sell information. He did not become angry. Instead, he produced an order for 500 jin of astragalus and 300 jin of angelica, priced 30% above the market rate. The offer looked generous, but the order had not been officially registered and bore no merchant house seal. I pushed it back. I will not accept it. The price is unsatisfactory. The documents are incomplete. I can pay in advance. The order has neither a travel permit nor proof of intended use. Who knows where the medicine would ultimately go? Xiao Sanlang studied me. Miss Shen is unusually cautious. Once someone has tried to burn down your granary, caution becomes natural. I rose to see him out. As he passed Gu Chenglan, he suddenly said in a low voice, "Not all of the grain from Beilang Ford crossed the border 5 years ago." Gu Chenglan abruptly raised his head, but Xiao Sanlang had already climbed into the carriage. The curtain fell. Before the carriage moved away, he looked back at me. "When Miss Shen is willing to talk, come to Chongning Pharmacy in the western city." After he left, I picked up the order he had abandoned. A faint cloud pattern appeared at the lower right corner of the paper. I had seen the same design on secret documents in father's study in my previous life. It was the mark of Prince Su's household. I did not hurry to seek Xiao Sanlang. Whether or not he belonged to Prince Su's household, I would not hand over the tally until I understood his purpose. The most urgent matter was making Kulyu estate capable of surviving. The estate contained 230 mu of farmland, half was abandoned, and the rest was severely salinized. Yet the old account books showed abundant harvests every year. Zhou Mao had falsely reported yields, converted non-existent grain into silver debts, and placed those debts in the names of the tenant farmers. I gathered everyone in the courtyard and publicly burned the fraudulent promissory notes. As flames curled over the pages, no one spoke. At last, an old farmer asked cautiously, "Young lady, are you truly not collecting these debts? You never owed them. Why would I collect them?" But the Marquis household has always said, Kulyu estate no longer belongs to the Marquis household. I distributed newly written tenancy contracts. Beginning this year, land rent will be assessed according to the actual harvest. It will be reduced in years of disaster and increased by 10% in years of exceptional harvest. Every payment will be recorded. Each contract will be stamped and copied in duplicate. They still did not dare believe me entirely. Liu Niang stepped forward. If the young lady wished to deceive us, why would she have entered a burning granary yesterday? Work for 1 year and see. Only then did the farmers gradually disperse. Gu Chenglan watched me redistribute the fields. Did you learn estate management in the Marquis household? My foster family owned several mu of medicinal land. I helped them. That was not a lie. My foster mother had taught me to identify herbs. But in my previous life, what truly taught me to read accounts and manage people was the Shen household's endless exploitation. I ordered the canal to be fully cleared. 3 days later, the underground spring flowed freely. Clear water ran through fields that had been cracked for years. The alkaline soil was unsuitable for wheat, but it could grow astragalus, angelica, perilla, and licorice. Mulberry trees, with their deep roots, could also gradually improve the earth. After examining the soil, Uncle Song frowned. There will be little income in the first year. I know, the estate still owes taxes and seed alone will not carry everyone through the year. I opened the wooden case left by my foster mother. It contained no gold or silver, only several medicinal prescriptions and a pair of plain silver bracelets. I pawned the bracelets and bought the first batch of seeds. The following day, Gu Chenglan had someone bring me 100 taels of silver. Where did this come from? I sold my old saber. I looked toward the empty rack. That blade had accompanied him through years of war. Redeem it, there is no need. I pushed the banknote back. The estate does not belong to me alone. I contributed my bracelets. You may contribute your experience, but the saber stays. Gu Chenglan frowned. Must you keep accounts even with me? Clear accounts prevent either person from always feeling like a burden. He watched me for a long time, then took the banknote back. The next day he handed me an old roster of his former soldiers. Some are dead, and some have scattered. If you truly intend to establish a weaving workshop and a medicinal processing yard, you can first look for their families. Liu Niang's husband's name appeared on the first page. Within a month, widows from more than a dozen military households arrived at the estate one after another. Some knew weaving, some understood dyeing, and others had processed herbs while serving with the army. I converted an abandoned stable into a workshop, paid everyone by the piece, and required no bondage contracts. Liu Niang was the first to object. If you do not bind them to the estate, what happens when they learn the craft and leave? If they find a better place, they may go. Then all the effort spent teaching them is wasted. If they can support themselves through that craft, the teaching was not wasted. Liu Niang stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly laughed. Young lady, you truly do not speak like someone from the Marquis household. Then do not treat me as one. The first few months were difficult. When nearby grain merchants learned that we lacked seed, they jointly raised their prices by 50%. The local tool shops, acting on instructions from the Marquis household, refused to sell us iron implements. I did not beg them. We collected scrap iron, and former soldiers who knew metalwork reforged it. For seeds, we traveled 30 li farther to buy from another market. 2 months later, when no one came to the local merchants, they had no choice but to lower their prices again. Liu Niang asked, why not force them even lower? They must still earn enough to continue trading. What we need is freedom from their control, not to drive everyone else into desperation. Xiao Sanlang heard those words. I did not know when he had arrived at the edge of the field. He held an order bearing every required seal. The travel permit, intended use and merchant seal Miss Shen asked for are all here. The order comes from a military supply pharmacy under Prince Su's household. The estate's astragalus has only just been planted. I can wait. The yield will not be high. I will take whatever you harvest at the market price, not 1 coin more and not 1 coin less. I glanced at him. He understood that I would not accept charity. Why choose Kuliu estate? Because you rejected a 30% windfall. That is a reason? When supplying the army, clean accounts matter more than low prices. I accepted the order, agreed. Xiao Sanlang looked over the herb fields, where the first tender shoots had appeared. Do you truly believe this wasteland can earn money? It is not the land that is useless. I crouched and brushed aside the soil, revealing a young angelica shoot breaking through the surface. No one tried to cultivate it properly before. He was silent for a moment. What about people? Can someone whom everyone considers useless grow again? I followed his gaze toward Gu Chenglan. Uncle stood beside the canal, teaching several young farmers to read the terrain. His cane sank into the mud, but his back remained straight. Yes, I said. As long as the roots remain, they can still grow to their fullest in time. Just when the crops were growing best, an insect infestation erupted across the estate. Overnight, countless holes appeared in the astragalus leaves. After examining them, Uncle Song's expression became grave. Green-backed worms, they reproduce extremely quickly. If we cannot control them within 3 days, the entire field will be destroyed. Liu Niang led people into the city to buy insect powder, but returned that afternoon with an empty cart. Every pharmacy claimed to have none. Her face was livid. I saw the powder stacked in their storerooms. The moment they heard it was for Gian Estate, they claimed it had already been sold. By then, we had renamed Kuliu Estate Gian Estate, the estate of returning geese. There was no need to guess who had ordered the pharmacies to refuse us. If our first crop failed, we would be unable to pay the land taxes or fulfill Prince Su's order. Father could then use mismanagement as a reason to reclaim the estate. Gu Chenglan gathered his old soldiers and prepared to buy medicine from another prefecture through the night. There is not enough time. I studied the damaged leaves and remembered one of my foster mother's prescriptions. She had boiled sephora root, tobacco stems, and soap pods to repel insects. Green-backed worms were more stubborn than ordinary pests, so the solution alone might not work. I searched the wooden case until I found a note written on the back of a yellowed page. Green-backed worms thrive in damp heat. Spray medicinal wash mixed with lime at dawn and dusk. I ordered everyone to stop and reorganize. Liu Niang led the workshop women in boiling sephora wash. Uncle Song adjusted the proportions. Young farmers carried wooden buckets and bamboo sprayers through the fields. Gu Chenglan sent people to inspect the drainage channels and discovered that someone had blocked the lower canal, preventing moisture from escaping the fields. The culprits were 2 tenant farmers bribed by Steward Zhao. Liu Niang was so furious that she wanted to beat them to death. I required the village head to punish them according to the tenancy contracts. They could not compensate the loss and were expelled from this estate. Someone asked, they nearly destroyed every herb field. Is merely driving them away not too light? Killing them would never eliminate betrayal. We punish them according to the law, so everyone remaining understands that Gian Estate has rules. It is not governed by whoever shouts the loudest. For 3 days and 3 nights almost no one slept. Blood blisters formed across my palms. Gu Chenglan moved through every field with his cane, checking the drainage row by row. On the 4th morning, the green-backed worms began dying in large numbers. We saved 70% of the crop. Liu Niang sat beside the field, hugged an empty bucket, and cried. I thought we would starve for another year. I sat beside her. We will not. How can you be certain, young lady? Because this time, you are not guarding the fields alone. That year, although Gian Estate's first medicinal harvest was reduced, we delivered Prince Su's order on time. Xiao Song came personally to inspect the goods. While helping turn the herbs in the drying yard, he mixed the astragalus and licorice together. Uncle Song was so angry that his beard trembled. Young Master Xiao, if you touch the medicine again, I will not be able to sell this batch at all. For once, Xiao Sanlong looked embarrassed. I handed him an illustrated herbal manual. Copy the names. How many times? 100 times each. Astragalus and licorice. He raised an eyebrow. Does Estate Master Shen treat every guest so severely? This is military medicine. Mixing it incorrectly can kill someone. He did not joke again. That day, he truly sat beneath the veranda and copied the 2 names 200 times. Qin Yao stood nearby suppressing laughter so desperately that he nearly overturned the inkstone. Before winter, we paid every old tax debt and repaired the first school that truly belonged to the estate's families. At the harvest feast, Gu Chenglan drank half a bowl of wine. He insisted that saving only 70% of the medicinal crop could not be called a harvest. Yet the following day, he personally went into the city and redeemed his old saber. When he hung it on the wall again, he stood before it for a long time. I knew the estate was not the only thing taking root again. In the second year after Kuliu Estate became Guian Estate, a merchant caravan arrived outside the gates late one night. Its leader claimed that a landslide had blocked the mountain road and asked permission to pass through our land. The travel permits stated that they were transporting medicinal ingredients, but when one cart rolled over a stone ridge, its wooden crate split open. Among the bundles of licorice, I saw part of a military crossbow mechanism. The men escorting the cart moved quickly and closed the crate. I stood beneath a lantern. Ordinary merchants require authorization from the Ministry of War to transport military crossbows. The leader's eyes instantly hardened. The young lady knows many things for someone so young. Many widows from military households live on this estate. There are quite a few people here who recognize weapons. Several guards behind him gripped their sword hilts. I deliberately stepped aside. Since your documents are complete, you may take the road. They clearly had not expected me to let them pass. Before the caravan left, I pretended to inspect the wheels and rub dye made from purple gromwell onto the inner axles of the final 3 carts. The color faded after drying, but vinegar would make it appear again. Half an hour later, I rode after them with Qin Yao. He frowned. Young lady, you should have waited for my master. By the time he arrived, the carts would already be beyond Beilang Ridge. Can you track them? I splashed vinegar water over the wheel ruts beside the road. Purple immediately appeared in the soil. Qin Yao fell silent. Xiao Sanlong caught up with us 10 li later. His face was grim. Miss Shen, there was no reason for you to pursue them personally. The carts passed through my estate. They carry weapons. I did not come unarmed. I raised the small crossbow hidden in my sleeve. Gu Chenglan had modified it for me. It was not powerful enough for battle, but it was sufficient for self-defense. Xiao Sanlong stopped trying to send me back. We followed the abandoned canal and found the caravan. The men were replacing their ordinary travel permits with another set of documents and resealing the wooden crates with fresh sealing wax. Xiao Sanlang crouched and examined the private seal of the Ministry of War. Just as we prepared to move closer, loose stones rolled behind us. Someone had discovered us. Qin Yao drew his sword and blocked the attackers. Xiao Sanlong pushed me toward a deep drainage trench and shielded me with his body. I did not recklessly join the fight. Instead, I fired my small crossbow at the lanterns. Darkness fell at once. Jump down, I said. Xiao Sanlang glanced toward the bottom. It is a dead end. No, I studied the old canals in this region. Behind the brush at the bottom is a drainage tunnel leading to the far side of the hill. I slid down first. Xiao Sanlong followed. Qin Yao, who had taken a slash to the shoulder while covering our retreat, leaped into the trench last. The pursuers lit torches. I tore aside the brush and revealed an opening only half a man's height. You go first, Xiao Sanlong said. Qin Yao is injured. Help him. What about you? I know the terrain. I used the last bolt in my crossbow to dislodge stones from the slope. The falling rubble temporarily blocked the trench entrance. By the time we emerged from the back of the hill, we had thrown off our pursuers. Qin Yao had lost too much blood, and a throwing blade had cut Xiao Sanlong's shoulder while he shielded me. After stopping Qin Yao's bleeding, I turned to Xiao Sanlong. Take off your clothes. He visibly froze. Even Qin Yao, pale with pain, could not suppress a cough. I looked at them without expression. Remove your outer robe. How else am I supposed to dress the wound? The tips of Xiao Sanlang's ears reddened. He turned away and opened his robe. I pressed medicinal powder into the cut. Why did you follow when you knew it was dangerous? He asked. If the evidence crossed the northern border, we might never find it again. Were you not afraid of dying? My hands paused. I am afraid because I have died once. I fear it even more. Then why still do this? Because otherwise leaving the Marquis household would have meant nothing. Before dawn, Qin Yao found a piece of sealing wax left in the mud. The front bore the mark of the Chongqing pharmacy under the Dingyuan Marquis household. The back carried a tiny private character. Pay the seal of Minister of War Pei Shen. Xiao Sanlong handed the wax to me. You keep it. You are not afraid I will destroy it? If you wanted to destroy the evidence, you would not have chased the caravan last night. It was the first time he had truly entrusted a matter of state to me. On the road back to the estate, he finally revealed his identity. My name is Xiao Jingheng. I am the heir of Prince Su. I did not stop walking. I know. You guessed? You do not resemble a merchant. A merchant buying medicine does not first inspect every roof and escape route, nor would an ordinary merchant carry the special wound medicine used by Prince Su's household. He laughed softly. Since you knew, why did you not expose me? You did not speak because you had your reasons. Then can you tell me what was in the iron box? Half of a military grain tally. The back bears the Shen family's private seal. The mildness vanished from Xiao Jingheng's face. My eldest brother died in Shozhou 5 years ago. He took out a damaged military dispatch. His final letter said the grain had reached Beilang Ford. 3 days later, only empty carts arrived at the garrison. I tightened my fingers around the sealing wax. Military grain. The Shen family's trade route. A Ministry of War private seal. Weapons moving toward the northern border. The scattered lines were finally beginning to connect. How does Your Highness intend to investigate? We should search Chongqing Pharmacy. We cannot search it directly. Why? The moment father suspects anything, he will destroy every account. Xiao Jingheng looked at me. You want to let them continue transporting goods? Only if they continue will every person on the route surface. I handed him a strip of cloth dyed with purple Cromwell. The goods cannot be allowed to cross the border, but we can follow them until the people behind them emerge. 2 years later, when I was 17, Jian Estate had 300 mu of medicinal fields, 2 textile workshops, and a small merchant caravan. Gu Chenglan's health had also stabilized. His leg had not recovered, but he no longer woke every night with pain in his chest. Half a month before grandmother's birthday, the Marquis household sent an invitation. In her letter, mother wrote that she had not seen me for 2 years and missed me deeply. Lunyang asked, "Will you go?" "Yes, to pay a family visit and collect a debt." The Jinyun silk shop belonging to the Marquis household had delayed payment for 3 shipments of cloth from Gian Estate. The total debt was 1,800 taels. I had demanded payment for half a year, but the shop repeatedly used unsettled accounts as an excuse. Since mother invited me home, I would ask for the money in person. On the day of the birthday banquet, I wore a blue-green dress made from Guian Estate's newly woven Yunlong wool. Shen Mingju saw me from a distance and laughed. Elder sister has lived on an estate so long that she has forgotten how to dress for a birthday banquet. In such coarse cloth, people may think the Marquis household mistreats its true daughter. By then she was engaged to the Duke of Anguo's household, and had become even more celebrated among the capital's noble young ladies. A well-dressed woman, who traded in textiles, hurried over and took hold of my sleeve. "Is this Guian Estate's new Yunlong wool?" I had servants wait 3 months and still could not buy any. Other women quickly gathered around. The smile on Mingju's face gradually stiffened. I took out the contract and addressed the Jinyan shopkeeper who followed behind her. "Please ask when the shop intends to pay the 1,800 taels it owes." Mingju stared at me. "How could a shop belonging to the Marquis household owe you money? It is written here in black and white." I opened the contract. The goods were sold, but payment was never made. "A government-licensed broker is present today. If the account is not settled, I will apply to seal goods of equal value." Her expression changed. "You brought an official broker to grandmother's birthday banquet? You are clearly here to cause trouble. I have requested payment for half a year." Mother hurried over and pulled me aside. "Jiaoning, it is only a little more than 1,000 taels. Why embarrass your sister? The shop owes the debt." "What does that have to do with her?" Mingju's eyes reddened. "Mother prepared that shop as part of my dowry, I see. Then since it is your shop, you may repay its debt." My eldest brother Shen Xian said coldly. "You have been away for 2 years and grown bold. What kind of elder sister pressures her own younger sister over a little silver? The kind who is a creditor." I signaled the broker to proceed according to the contract. A servant suddenly announced from outside, "The heir of Prince Su has arrived." Xiao Jingheng entered in formal black robes befitting Prince Su's heir. Mingju immediately went to greet him. "Your Highness." He nodded slightly. "It seems I came at an inconvenient time." Shen Huijin hurried to smooth matters over. "It is only a small family matter. I apologize for the spectacle. If it is small, why not pay?" One sentence left Shen Huijin speechless. Mother forced a smile. "Jiaoning is young and does not understand that a family need not calculate every matter so precisely." Xiao Jingheng looked at the debt contract in my hand. "When Guian Estate settles accounts with Prince Su's household, it has never undercounted even 1 coin. If military supplies were governed by personal closeness rather than contracts, would the border army receive provisions according to who was favored? He did not pay the debt for me or order anyone to seize the shop. He simply acknowledged the rules. That reassured me more than public favoritism would have. The Marquis household paid the debt on the spot. After the banquet, mother called me into a side hall. "Jiaoning, do you still resent mother?" "What does mother wish to ask?" She took my hand. "Is Qianfu still alive?" So that was the true reason. I withdrew my hand. "He is." "What did he tell you? What are you afraid he told me?" Her face paled. Footsteps sounded outside. Xiao Jingheng stood beneath the veranda at a properly respectful distance. When mother saw him, her gaze became complicated. Prince Su's household is not a place you can rely upon, she said. The imperial court is dangerous. You should simply manage your estate. In the future, Mother will find a suitable marriage for you. I looked at her. Mother did not invite me back today because you missed me. You wanted to know whether Qianfu was dead. Her lips trembled. I did not wait for an explanation. I turned and left. On the road back, Qin Yao brought us a route map stained with blood. The name Liu Changhai was written at the edge. Liu Changhai had served under Gu Chenglan and had been the officer escorting the military grain 5 years earlier. The map carried only one line: the Shen family is eliminating people connected to the old case. Liu Changhai lived in a small wine shop in the northern city. By the time we arrived, the place had been ransacked. Blood stained the floor, but he was gone. Neighbors said government officers had come the previous night and taken him away on charges of illegally selling military equipment. Xiao Jingheng searched the capital prefecture, the Court of Judicial Review, and the Ministry of War. No arrest had been recorded. The officers were impostors. Gu Chenglan held the blood-stained route map in silence. When he had been escorted back to the capital 5 years earlier, Liu Changhai led 20 riders in an attempt to rescue the prison convoy. The attempt failed. Changhai was stripped of military status, and 2 fingers on his right hand were broken. They want the remaining half of the route map, I said. They also want his life. In my previous life, Liu Changhai's body was found in a mass grave 1 month later. There were no visible wounds and his death was ruled the result of drunken exposure. This time, we had only a few days. Xiao Jingheng examined carriage records leaving the city. If they intend to silence him, they will probably take him outside the capital. Not immediately. They cannot easily recover the other half of the map once he is dead. They will interrogate him first. Do you know where? Chongqing Pharmacy owns an abandoned courier station near Weilong Ridge. I deliberately ordered Liu Niang to release a rumor that Liu Changhai had given me the other half of the route map before disappearing. The next night, intruders entered Guian Estate. Finding nothing, they abducted Qin Yao, who had deliberately disguised himself as an accountant. Our hidden trackers followed them to the abandoned station. Xiao Jingheng refused to let me enter. There are at least a dozen armed men inside. If they see you, they may kill the captives and burn the map immediately. I am the only person who can delay them. It is too dangerous. I looked directly at him. Liu Changhai is not merely a box containing evidence. He is a person before he is a witness. Xiao Jingheng's expression shifted. In my previous life, everyone told me that the family's interests mattered most. No one ever said that I was a person before I was a tool. At last, he stepped aside. I will go with you. We allowed ourselves to be captured and taken inside the station. The leader removed his mask. Gu Chenglan's expression turned cold. Han Kun. 5 years earlier, he had been the deputy general responsible for torturing Uncle General Gu. It has been many years. Liu Changhai was tied to a post, his body covered in blood. General, leave, he shouted. Han Kun stared at the false map in my hand. Give it to me. Release him first. You are not qualified to set conditions. I moved the paper over the candle flame. Then I will burn it. Han Kun's expression changed, just as I expected. He ordered his men to loosen Liu Chan's bonds. The moment the rope fell away, a sharp bird call sounded outside the signal from Qin Yao. Xiao Jingheng drew his sword. Gu Chenglan swept his cane across the room. I kicked over the candle stand, plunging the station into darkness. The people lying in ambush outside broke through the doors. Han Kun tried to seize me, but Uncle struck him in the chest with his cane. When you tortured me 5 years ago, Gu Chenglan said, stepping on his wrist, I told you that if I survived, I would return for you. Han Kun laughed coldly. You signed the military grain transfer papers. The grain disappeared on the route under your control. You can never wash away that stain. Liu Changhai forced out the words. The general received a false order. Shen Chongchuan replaced the real transport document. Han Kun's expression changed abruptly. We found a key hidden in the lining of his belt. In the cellar, it opened a room containing many old military dispatches and 5 years of medicine delivery records. Every month's medicine sent to Gu Chenglan had passed through Chongqing Pharmacy. Liu Changhai produced the remaining half of the route map. When the two halves were joined, they showed that the military grain had turned northeast at Beilong Ford and ended at Heisong Depot. Xiao Jingheng's face turned pale. My eldest brother died 30 west of Heisong Depot. The hand holding the map trembled slightly. I bandaged a cut on the back of his hand. You always knew there was something wrong with your brother's death? His final letter said there was a traitor in the army. Where is the letter? My father burned it. Why? He feared I would continue investigating. He also feared the emperor would think Prince Su's household was using an old case to seize military authority. His imperial clan identity was both Xiao Jingheng's sword and the chain around his neck. I spread the route map flat. We have the map, Han Kun, and the medicine records, but it is still not enough. We need proof of where the military grain truly went and evidence that the Shen family is currently colluding with the enemy. Xiao Jingheng asked, "What do you plan to do?" "Let them believe Guiana State intends to qualify as an imperial supplier. The Shen family will interfere." Exactly. I drew a circle around Haesong Depot. The more anxious they become, the more likely they are to walk into the trap themselves. Rain poured on the road back. Our carriage became trapped in mud, forcing us to shelter in a ruined temple. Xiao Jingheng's wound opened again. As I rebandaged it, he asked, "You never seem to question whether I deserve your trust. You showed me your investigation token and did not conceal the evidence. That is enough." "It is not enough." I tied the bandage. Trust is not something that exists before people cooperate. It is accumulated little by little afterward. He asked quietly, "How much have I accumulated now?" Rain tapped against the broken tiles. I looked at him. "Enough for me to bandage your wounds." For the first time, he laughed openly. In the autumn of the third year, Guiana State earned a true profit for the first time. After deducting the costs of medicinal crops, textiles, and the caravan, 6,000 taels remained in our accounts. Father personally came to the estate at that time. He brought no armed guards, only a carriage filled with jewelry and brocade. The tenant farmers had never seen the Marquis visit in person and watched from a distance. Father stood beside the newly repaired canal, his expression complicated. He had probably never imagined that the wasteland he discarded would change so completely within 3 years. "You have done well." It was the first time he had praised me. In my previous life, I had endured countless sleepless nights for those 4 words. Now I felt only calm. "Why has the Marca come?" His brows drew together. "I am your father." My father would not travel to Guiana State merely to inspect medicinal fields. He suppressed his displeasure. "You are older now. Your mother intends to hold another coming-of-age ceremony for you, so the entire capital will know that you are the true legitimate daughter of the Dingyuan Marquis household. The household will also give you 2 shops in the eastern city to manage. You and Mingzhu will each receive half the dowry. We will not mistreat you." Liu Niang, standing nearby, laughed coldly under her breath. I understood why father had suddenly decided to show goodwill. Guiana State had entered the northern military supply network. The evidence supplied by Qian Fu, Liu Changhai, and Han Kun was all in our hands. Father did not dare kill me, so he wanted to pull me back into the Marquis household. Once I returned, he could gradually control the estate, the caravan, and the witnesses. "What are the conditions?" His face sank. "A father asks his daughter to return home. Why speak of conditions? If there were none, the household could have brought me back 2 years ago." He was silent for a moment. "You are too close to the heir of Prince Su. Struggles within the imperial clan are dangerous. You should not become involved. Give Qian Fu and Liu Changhai to me, and this matter will end here." As expected. If they wish to leave with the Marquis, I will not stop them. You know they will refuse. So the Marquis wants me to deceive them? Joning. For the first time, he showed real anger. "Do you think that because you manage one estate and know one imperial heir, you can oppose the Marquis household? Shen blood runs in your veins. Without the Shen family, do you believe the capital will truly acknowledge you?" I looked toward the people working in the fields. The tenant farmers know me. The women in the workshops know me. The merchants who sign contracts with Guian's estate know me. Why do I need the capital to acknowledge me? His expression grew colder. "The heir of Prince Su will not marry a merchant woman who appears in public every day. Even if he does, it will only be because he wants the evidence in your hands." Did the Marquis come to recognize his daughter, or to choose her husband? His face turned livid. "You want me to return not because I am your daughter," I continued, "but because Guiana State has become valuable, and because Qian Fu and Liu Changhai frighten you." Father stared at me for a long time, then he smiled. "It appears I truly underestimated you. But remember this, Gu Chenglan can protect you for a time, not for a lifetime. When he dies, and if Prince Su's household abandons you, whom will you have?" Before I could answer, Gu Chenglan entered through the gate with his cane. "She has herself. That is enough." He stopped beside me. Father looked at him with the same contempt he had shown for years. "A cripple dares speak of protecting others?" Gu Chenglan did not become angry. "You are able-bodied, yet you know only how to push your daughter forward to bear your crimes. I have one lame leg, but at least I still stand upright." Father's face darkened completely. He left without unloading the jewelry and brocade. I ordered the carriage sent back exactly as it had arrived. After it disappeared down the road, Xiao Jingheng stepped out from behind the textile workshop. He had come that day to inspect a shipment of military uniforms and had heard everything father said. Marcus Shen was correct about one thing, he said. Which thing? If I married you, the capital would certainly claim I did it for the evidence. I looked at him. Then do you intend to avoid the risk, Your Highness? No. His expression was serious. Until everything is over, I do not want anyone to use marriage to erase what you have accomplished. If that day ever comes, I will first make everyone understand that you do not need Prince Su's household to make a life for yourself. My fingers tightened slightly around the account book. You are thinking too far ahead, Your Highness. Perhaps a little. He accepted a basket of herbs from Lu Niang. But General Gu was right. You have yourself. That is enough. He stayed to help with the harvest that day. Gu Chenglan deliberately assigned him to carry sacks with the tenant farmers for the entire day. Xiao Jingheng was covered in dust but never used his rank to refuse. At dinner that evening, Uncle's expression toward him finally softened slightly. Only slightly. In the spring of the 4th year, I submitted an application to the Ministry of Revenue to compete for the following year's medicinal supply contract for the Northern Army. The Marquis household acted at once. Chongqing Pharmacy cut medicinal prices sharply, and Shenhuaijin spread rumors that Guian Estate relied on Prince Su's household to monopolize military supply. I did not defend myself. Instead, I announced publicly that Guian Estate lacked sufficient capital and might abandon the northern trade route. At the same time, I had Lu Niang quietly tell a shopkeeper connected to the Marquis household that a new trade road had opened north of Bailing Ridge. Goods sold to northern frontier merchants could earn 3 times the ordinary profit. The road truly existed. It was also the route enemy smugglers used through Heisong Depot. Shen Mingju took the bait. She was about to marry into the Duke of Anguo's household and was eager to prove that she was more than a marquis's daughter who knew music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She asked father to let her manage her dowry shops and the household caravans. Mother even wrote to advise me not to compete with my younger sister in business. After reading the letter, I found it absurd. Mother never worried that Mingju might harm me. She worried only that my retaliation might be too severe. After Mingju took over the shops, her first action was to seize the highly profitable northern route. She stamped every transport document with her own manager's seal. Lu Niang asked, "What if she does not know there is a problem with the goods? She may not know about the first shipment. Then would it not be unfair to convict her? That is why we wait for the second." After the first shipment departed, Xiao Jingheng's men intercepted a crate with a hidden compartment near the border. Inside was a coded letter written in the northern enemy's script. It stated that the next delivery should include a new frontier patrol map. We did not expose it. Before the second shipment, I sent someone disguised as a northern merchant to tell Mingju that ordinary medicinal goods produced too little profit. If iron implements were included, the payment would double. She hesitated for 3 days, then wrote a reply in her own hand. As long as the road remains clean, we may proceed as before. When we intercepted the reply, Xiao Jingheng placed an investigation token on my desk. From now on, if local officials obstruct Guian Estate's inspection of caravans, you may present this directly. I did not take it. This is authority belonging to Prince Su's household. It is authority belonging to the investigation. You are not afraid I will use it to take revenge on the Shen family? If revenge were all you wanted, you would have submitted the first coded letter the moment it reached your hands. He pushed the token closer. This is not an order for you to obey me. It is a means to prevent others from stopping you. Rain poured outside the window. We compared accounts deep into the night. My fingers, injured in the granary fire years earlier, trembled slightly. Xiao Jingheng did not take the account book from me or say that a woman should not work so hard. He simply pushed a cup of ginger tea toward me. How many pages remain? 3. Drink this, then read them. You are not advising me to rest? Would you listen? No. Then I will not waste my breath. I lowered my head and smiled. At the beginning of the 5th year, Shen Mingju formally took command of the Marquis household's caravans. At gatherings of noblewomen, she said Guian Estate knew only how to farm, and that real business still depended on a Marquis household. I did not argue. What she had accepted was not glory. It was a rope tightening around her own neck. On the day of Shen Mingju's wedding, her magnificent red bridal procession stretched for 10 li along the capital's main streets. She was marrying Zhou Yan, heir to the Duke of Anguo. Her dowry included 6 shops, 2 estates, and a great quantity of jewelry. 3 of those shops had participated in money transfers through Chongqing Pharmacy. Before the bridal procession left, I arrived at the Marquis household with a government-licensed broker and Guion Estates accountants. When mother saw me, delight first appeared in her eyes, followed almost immediately by vigilance. Joning, today is Mingju's wedding. I came to deliver a gift. My people carried in a red wooden chest. Inside lay every debt contract and repayment receipt from the previous 5 years arranged neatly. Mingju's expression relaxed. Elder sister is thoughtful. I am not finished. I removed the final debt contract. Last year, Jinyun Shop borrowed silver from Guion Estate to expand. The loan was due in March. It is now May, and the shop still owes 3,000 taels. Her face changed. Jinyun Shop was the most prestigious business in her dowry. You deliberately chose today to collect the debt. I have sent 3 notices. It is only 3,000 taels. Must you let the entire capital laugh at me? If it is only 3,000 taels, repay it now. The Duchess of Angguo was already in the hall and frowned upon hearing the dispute. Mother whispered, let your sister marry first. Mother will repay you afterward. The debt belongs to the shop. Mother cannot privately replace its accounts. I signaled the broker to inspect and seal the relevant property. Father had no choice but to order the household accountant to pay the silver on the spot. When the broker re-verified the dowry properties, however, he discovered that Jinyun Shop's true owner had secretly been changed to a northern merchant. That man was an old associate of Luo Chengye, Shen Mingju's biological father. The Duchess of Angguo immediately demanded that the entire dowry be registered again. The wedding was delayed by 2 hours. From inside the bridal sedan, Mingju looked at me through the red curtain. The hatred in her eyes was impossible to conceal. I did not care. The dowry inspection confirmed that 3 secret account books were hidden in a concealed compartment inside a jade Buddha statue. Xiao Jingheng's people did not steal the books. They copied only the crucial pages and resealed statue exactly as before. At the wedding banquet, someone deliberately mentioned that I frequently appeared beside Xiao Jingheng. Miss Shen enters and leaves the Heiress company every day. Has Prince Su's household already tacitly approved the marriage? Quiet laughter sounded around the hall. Before I could answer, Xiao Jingheng stood. Miss Shen has never entered my private residence. He displayed joint investigation documents bearing official seals. For the past 5 years, every contact between her and Prince Su's household has concerned military supply or investigation of an old case. An accountant, official or guard was present at every meeting. Someone laughed. You are both unmarried. Why must your highness be so serious? Precisely because she is unmarried, the matter must be made clear. His voice was not loud, but the hall gradually fell silent. Miss Shen built Guion Estate through her own ability. A few rumors should not erase every one of her accomplishments. He did not announce that he would marry me, nor did he use a future engagement to rescue my reputation. He defended me as a person, not as someone's future wife. After the banquet, Mother stopped me in a side courtyard and handed me an old letter. It had been written by Pei Shen to Father 5 years earlier. One sentence was unmistakable. If Gu Chenglan refuses to confess, threaten him with the safety of Yunshu and her 2 daughters. I looked at Mother. You knew? Tears fell from her eyes. I knew only that the military grain was missing. I did not know they sold it to the northern enemy. Your father said that if Chenglan confessed, the rest of the Gu family could be spared. So you persuaded uncle to confess. She did not answer, and afterward? Later I discovered there was something wrong with his medicine. She caught my sleeve. But your father said it would only weaken Chenglan, so he could not continue investigating. I did not know it would kill him. I removed her fingers, one by one. What do you want me to do? Stop. She began to cry. Mingju is already married. Your father has promised never to conduct that business again. If you stop, our family can still. Mother, I interrupted her. You did not give me this letter to help uncle. You are afraid the Marquis household will fall, so you are leaving yourself a path of escape. Her face turned white. I will submit this letter to the Court of Judicial Review. Whether you were an accomplice will be decided by the law. I walked out of the courtyard. Qinyao hurried toward us and handed Xiao Jingheng a military dispatch. The northern enemy had moved south. Its route was identical to the frontier map that disappeared 5 years earlier. The Duke of Angguo's household soon discovered irregularities in the dowry shops. Zhou Yan confiscated Mingju's manager's seal and demanded that she surrender every commercial document. Mingju did not dare let the Duke's household learn that she had handled trade with enemy smugglers. Not only would her marriage end, but the reputation she had built for 15 years would collapse. She came to Guion Estate once. It was the first time since her wedding that she wore no luxurious clothes. Standing outside the medicinal fields, She asked immediately. Was this your design? Which part? The northern trade route. She clearly did not expect me to admit it so directly. You knew there was something wrong with the goods, yet you deliberately let me take over. You may not have known before the first shipment, but after the first coded letter appeared, you understood. When the second shipment included iron goods, you also had the opportunity to stop. Her face was pale. If I stopped, what would father think? What would the Duke's household think of me? So, to preserve your status and marriage, you chose to continue. You do not understand. Her voice became shrill. The moment you returned, you had everything: blood, the status of legitimate daughter, mother's guilt. All of it belonged to you. If I did not struggle, I could be driven out at any time. I looked at her. When I left the Marquis household, I had nothing. A wasteland burdened by taxes and an uncle despised by everyone. Those were the things you looked down upon. She froze. I understand that you were afraid of losing the household, I said. But fear is not a reason to harm others. It is certainly not a reason to commit treason. She was silent for a long time. Then she asked, if I give you every account now, can you protect me? No. Why? I am not the court of judicial review, and I am not the emperor. You must bear responsibility for your own choices. The final hope in her eyes turned to hatred. You only want to see me die. If I wanted that, I could have sent the first letter to the authorities. I waited because you still had opportunities to stop. You chose not to. Mingzhu left. 3 days later, the Duke of Anguo's household sent word that she had stolen the manager's seal confiscated by Zhou Yan and secretly ordered the Marquis household's final shipment to depart. The cargo contained not only military equipment, but also the latest frontier patrol map. Zhou Yan personally handed Mingzhu's written transport order to the Court of Judicial Review. He did not conceal his wife's actions or gamble the survival of his household with the Shen family. Mingzhu had tried to save her marriage, and instead caused her husband's family to sever all ties with her. We did not immediately intercept the final shipment after it left the capital. Qin Yao followed it to Heisong Depot. Near the frontier, he discovered the receiving station used by enemy smugglers. He remained hidden alone for 2 days and recorded the faces and passwords of every person involved in the handover. When he returned, a new wound crossed his shoulder. Xiao Jingheng asked why he had not waited for reinforcements. Qin Yao glanced at me. Miss Shen once said evidence is important, but people are important too. I did not throw my life away, and I did not let the evidence escape. It was the first time Qin Yao had independently completed an entire surveillance operation. He was no longer merely the silent personal guard at Xiao Jingheng's side, but a man capable of taking responsibility for a major task. At the same time, the northern enemy army crossed through Heisong Depot. War began. 30,000 enemy cavalry broke through 2 frontier forts in succession. The court urgently mobilized troops. Xiao Jingheng received an imperial order to travel to Shuzhou. Gu Chenglan was secretly summoned back to the Ministry of War to redesign the grain routes. Uncle had been away from the ministry for 5 full years. When he spread the frontier map before him again, his fingers rested on the paper for a long time. A Ministry of War official laughed. Can a cripple still understand the current battlefield? Gu Chenglan did not argue. He simply used his cane to point to 3 valleys. If the enemy came through Heisong Depot, they already know the old military grain route. If we continue using the ministry's original road, the supply convoy will be ambushed at Eagle Beak Gorge within 3 days. Some officials refused to believe him. Xiao Jingheng placed a newly arrived reconnaissance report on the table. The vanguard has already found enemy troops at Eagle Beak Gorge. The room fell silent. The emperor ultimately adopted Gu Chenglan's new route. Guian Estate was designated as a rear military supply transfer station. The canals we had repaired, the warehouses we had built, and the caravans we had trained over 5 years finally became a genuine source of strength. I sold most of the estate's medicinal stock to the government and supplied grain at fair prices. Nearby grain merchants raised their prices during the emergency. Guian Estate publicly promised not to raise its prices by even 1 coin for the duration of the emergency. The people brought their surplus grain to us, and we organized it for transport to the border. The expensive grain, hoarded by the Marquis household, remained unsold. Father sent a message saying that if I joined forces with the Shen family, he would overlook the past. I sent back 1 sentence. A national crisis is not the Marquis household's business opportunity. Before leaving for the frontier, Xiao Jing came to Guian Estate in light armor, fine snow resting on his shoulders. I was checking the seals on the grain carts. He suddenly asked, "Are you afraid?" "Of what?" "That I will not return." My fingers paused. For 5 years we had examined accounts, chased caravans, and rescued people together. Our relationship had long ceased to be simple cooperation, yet neither of us had spoken first. If you do not return, I will have to finish investigating the case alone. That would be troublesome. He smiled. Only troublesome? One truthful sentence. I raised my eyes. I am afraid. The smile slowly left his face. So am I. What are you afraid of? That I will return too late. From inside his robe, he took out a marriage agreement with the names still left blank. It would be improper to give this to you now. When I return, if you are willing, I will say everything then. I untied the protective knot at my waist. It was the only personal object my foster mother had left me. Take it. He did not accept it immediately. It is too precious. That is why you must return it. I placed the knot in his palm. Bring it back, and I will tell you whether I am willing to listen. Xiao Jingheng closed his hand around it. All right. He did not demand that I wait, nor did he promise that he would certainly return unharmed. He only said, at the frontier I will count every one of your grain carts myself. 10 days later, a military report arrived. The new route had avoided Eagle Beak Gorge and 8,000 shi of grain had safely entered Shuzhou. A letter from Xiao Jingheng came with it. It contained not one word of longing. It carefully recorded which wounded soldier camps received the medicine, how many grain carts were damaged, and how many soldiers were saved. At the end was only a brief message. The protective knot remains. Do not worry. I held the letter and smiled in front of everyone for a very long time. That night, Liu Niang knocked on my door. Young lady, there are unfamiliar men outside. I climbed the watchtower. In the darkness, dozens of figures moved along the irrigation channel toward the grain warehouses. They carried incendiary oil, bows and arrows. This time, the Shen family did not intend to burn a witness. They intended to burn every shipment of grain. Prepared for the frontier, I had known they would act. In my previous life, when war began, Father had ordered 2 nearby granaries burned in order to force the court to buy the Shen family's hoarded grain at an inflated price. Guiyang Estate was now the largest transfer station, so it could not escape his attention. 3 days earlier, I had moved the real military grain into newly built underground warehouses. The surface granaries held only water-soaked rice husks and sandbags. Every grain cart had also been registered in advance with the county office. I ordered all estate families into the stone buildings. Qinyao and county soldiers waited in ambush along the banks. The assassins climbed the walls and quickly poured oil. Their leader fired a flaming arrow. Fire shot into the sky. As they turned to leave, dozens of lanterns lit at once around the warehouses. Put down your weapons! The county magistrate led his constables in. The assassins fled toward the canal, but Gu Chenglan waited at the bridge. The first man who charged him was swept into the ditch with one strike of his cane. The fighting lasted less than 8 minutes. 30 assassins were captured. Uncle Song dislocated the leader's jaw before he could bite down on poison. We found an order on him bearing the seal Shen Huaijin, used as heir to the Marquis household. Mother arrived after dawn. She did not use the Marquis household carriage and brought only 2 maidservants. The moment she saw the blackened granary, tears began to fall. Zhongning, your elder brother was only confused for a moment. I continued checking the confessions without lifting my head. 30 armed men came with oil to burn military grain. Is that what Mother calls a moment of confusion? He was only afraid you would push the Marquis household into a dead end. Did I bring the household to this point? Her voice trembled. Your father made mistakes, but Huaijin is your own brother. If he enters prison, his entire life will be destroyed. The frontier soldiers who would die without grain are also someone's brothers and sons. But we are family. I raised my head. Every time Mother wants me to sacrifice myself, you say that we are family. She staggered, then suddenly knelt before me. Zhongning, Mother begs you. Before I could move, Gu Chenglan entered the courtyard and stood between us. Gu Yunshu. It was the first time since his conviction that he had called Mother by her full name. She is not your escape route. Mother raised her face. Elder brother, 5 years ago, you persuaded me to confess. You said that if I accepted the charges, the Shen family would treat Zhongning well. Later, you persuaded Zhongning to yield, saying she was your birth daughter and would eventually be compensated. Now that the Shen family is about to fall, you ask her to spare Huaijin. His voice remained steady. Every time you claim there is no other choice. Every time you choose to sacrifice the person who is easiest to abandon. Mother collapsed onto the ground. Gu Chenglan did not look at her again. The assassins and the order will be sent to the Court of Judicial Review. If you continue concealing evidence, you will be tried with them. A victory report arrived from the frontier that afternoon. Xiao Jingheng's troops had intercepted the final shipment of smuggled weapons. Purple Cromwell traces stained the crate bottoms. Because the enemy's grain route had been exposed, they were forced to withdraw from 2 frontier forts. The emperor was furious. He ordered the military grain case from 5 years earlier reopened and combined with the current treason investigation. Every relevant person was to appear before the Court of Judicial Review 3 days later. When the imperial decree arrived, I stood before the charred old granary. 5 years earlier, father had used fire to kill Qianfu and destroy evidence. In this life, another fire illuminated crimes they could no longer hide. On the night before the imperial hearing, Qianfu disappeared. He had been living in a courtyard protected by the Court of Judicial Review. The guards found no sign of a struggle. Only a note remained on the table. I have failed you, Miss Shen. I do not dare appear in court. Xiao Jinghing had not yet returned from the frontier. Qinyao searched the surrounding districts but found no trace of Qianfu. Gu Qinglan asked, without Qianfu, can the tally and old account still be used? Yes, but the chain of evidence will lack its most important witness. The hearing proceeded the next day. Gu Qinglan put on the old military uniform he had worn 5 years earlier. Its sleeves had faded, and the shoulders still bore needle marks where his insignia had been torn away. Why not wear the new uniform prepared by the court? I asked. I want them to see clearly how they drove me out of the army. The steps of the Golden Hall were high. He climbed them one by one with his cane. I walked beside him without offering support. He did not need it. The Court of Judicial Review first presented the military equipment seized from the current caravans. Purple Cromwell traces appeared when vinegar was applied to the crate bottoms, matching all 13 shipments recorded by Guian Estate. Next came the Chongqing pharmacy travel permits, bank drafts, Mingzhu's handwritten transport documents, the assassin's confessions, and records of the manager's seal submitted by the Duke of Angguo's household. Father knelt in the hall but remained composed. Your Majesty, Chongqing pharmacy was transferred to Shen Mingzhu as part of her dowry. I did not know the shop was secretly transporting weapons. As for the military grain case 5 years ago, it had nothing to do with me. Shen Mingzhu immediately cried. Father clearly told me those were ordinary iron goods. Shen Huaijin pointed at me. Shen Zhaoning hates us, the Marquis household. These documents may have been fabricated by her and Prince Su's household. The emperor looked at me. How do you prove that the military grain was rerouted 5 years ago? I presented the half-tally and the restored route map. Liu Chonghai entered the hall to testify. Han Kun admitted that Pei Shen had ordered him to torture Gu Qinglan and arrange the long-term delivery of poison. Father laughed coldly. A former soldier with broken fingers and a guilty official begging to live, how can their testimony be trusted? If the tally truly came from the granary, why is the man who kept it not here to testify? At that moment, a servant announced from outside, Qianfu requests an audience. I abruptly raised my head. 2 court officers helped Qianfu into the hall. His face was gray, and his sleeves were stained with blood. The emperor asked, are you the accountant from that year? I am, Your Majesty. Shen Zhaoning says you kept the tally and personally witnessed the military grain being rerouted. Qianfu lowered his head. No. An uproar swept through the hall. Father's eyes finally showed delight. Qianfu continued, I never kept the tally and never saw the Dingyuan Marca reroute military grain. Shen Huaijin immediately said, Your Majesty, Shen Zhaoning did indeed forge the evidence. Gu Chenglan struck his cane heavily against the floor. I did not rush to argue. Qianfu's right hand had remained clenched around his sleeve while he spoke. He claimed never to have kept the tally, but deliberately mentioned that the old granary stood west of the estate. The real granary stood east. We had agreed long ago that if a witness was coerced, he would deliberately give the wrong direction of the granary. I asked, Accountant Qian, how old is your grandson this year? Father's expression changed abruptly. Qianfu trembled. I have no grandson. You do. He and your daughter-in-law live in Yushu Alley in the southern city. They were taken last night, were they not? Qianfu finally raised his head. His eyes were filled with tears. Father shouted, You are threatening a witness. Marquis Shen appears more anxious than I am. I turned to the emperor. Your Majesty, before entering the hall, Qianfu deliberately gave the wrong location of the granary. It is the distress signal we agreed upon. Please seal the city gates immediately and search the Shen family's private residence in the southern city. Father's face turned iron gray. Just as the Chief Justice of the Court of Judicial Review prepared to give orders, hurried footsteps sounded outside. Xiao Jingheng entered the Golden Hall covered in dust from the road. His left arm was wrapped in bandages, but with his right hand he led a boy of 7 or 8. A terrified woman followed behind them. Qianfu broke down the moment he saw them. Abao, Xiao Jingheng knelt to report. On the road back to the capital, I received a carrier pigeon message from Qin Yao. We rescued Qian Fu's family from a Shen residence in the southern city. The guards have confessed that Shen Huaijin ordered them to reverse Qian Fu's testimony. Qin Yao then escorted 2 guards into the hall. One carried a written order from Shen Huaijin. Chen fell prostrate and sobbed. Your Majesty, I am guilty. 5 years ago, the military grain was rerouted by Marquis Shen through a false urgent order from the Ministry of War. I was afraid. I hid half of the tally but did not report the crime. When General Gu was convicted, I did not step forward. I have never been innocent, but Miss Shen saved me once and then saved my family. Even if I die today, I must tell the truth. At that moment, he was no longer merely a witness I had rescued. He finally accepted responsibility for his silence 5 years earlier. The evidence continued. Uncle Song submitted the poisoned medicine. Mother surrendered the Marquis household seal registers. They clearly recorded that father personally checked out the official seal on the day the Beilang forged shipment was rerouted. Finally, a letter seized at the frontier was brought into the hall. It stated, the grain route map provided by Marquis Shen 5 years ago proved extremely useful. This time, our army will again follow the old road. Father's composure shattered completely. He turned toward mother. Gu Yunshu, you kept the old accounts. Even if such a letter exists, Gu Chenglan could have placed it in my study. Mother stared at him in disbelief. You told me it was only to conceal a deficit and that the Gu family caused the problem. You were clearly preparing to make Zhaoning and me confess for you. She suddenly drew a key from her sleeve. There is another seal register in the hidden compartment of the study. Every use of the seal is dated. Father's face became deathly pale. Gu Chenglan had remained silent throughout the accusations. Only when the emperor asked, Minister Gu, what do you wish to say, did he move forward with his cane. 5 years ago, I signed the handover documents. The grain was rerouted under a false order while traveling through the route, under my command. I bear responsibility for failing to discover it. But I never committed treason. Today I do not ask your majesty to absolve me of every fault. I ask only that the soldiers who died because their grain never arrived be given the truth. I looked toward father. Marquis Shen repeatedly claims that I fabricated evidence because I resent my parents. But evidence does not change according to whether I feel resentment. Where did the grain travel? Where did the bank drafts go? Where are the weapons? Whose orders did the captured assassins follow? Every fact can be verified. I do not ask your majesty to believe me because I am an abandoned daughter. I ask only that the law examine the case. Father could no longer speak. Shen Mingju suddenly rushed forward and knelt before the throne. Your majesty, I have more evidence. She took a key from her hair. Inside the hollow jade Buddha is father's final secret letter with Minister Pei. I knew nothing. Father forced me. The jade Buddha was opened in court. It contained the secret letter, and also her handwritten reply. As long as the road remains clean, we may proceed as before. The knife she offered to save herself pierced the Marquis household first, then pierced her as well. The Court of Judicial Review investigated for 7 days. Minister of War Pei Shen and Dingyuan Marquis Shen Chongchuan were convicted of treason, embezzling military grain, smuggling military equipment, and several related crimes. Shen Huaijin was convicted of attempting to burn military grain and abducting a witness's family. He and father were sentenced to death. Shen Mingju knowingly signed documents for caravans transporting military equipment, continued for profit, and stole the manager's seal to dispatch the final shipment. She was sentenced to lifelong hard labor in northern exile and forbidden from receiving pardon. Mother was convicted of concealing evidence, shielding crimes, and failing to report the poisoning of Gu Chenglan after she learned the truth. Her noble title was stripped, and she was exiled to Bianzhou. My second brother, Shen Huayan, surrendered the hidden seal register at the final moment. He escaped severe punishment, but was removed from the family register, reduced to commoner status, and permanently barred from government service. The title of Dingyuan Marquis was abolished, and the household was confiscated. On the day officials removed the plaque from the mansion, I stood across the long street. 5 years earlier, I had left through a side gate while everyone inside laughed at me. Now the vermilion gate stood open, and trunks were carried out one after another. None of the guests who had once competed for ties with the Shen family appeared. Mother passed me wearing a kang. She stopped. Zhoning. I neither avoided her nor approached. Mother knows she was wrong. Yes, she had not expected me to answer with only one word. Can you call me mother one more time? I was silent for a long while. Madame Gu. The light in her eyes went out completely. I will not retaliate against you, and I will not prevent any lawful reduction of your sentence. But I cannot forgive you. No one knew about the life she owed me from my previous life. The choices she made again and again in this life were already enough. When Shen Mingju was brought out, she wore no jewelry or fine robes, only a prisoner's garment. She saw me and suddenly laughed. You won. This was not a contest, I won. Was it not you who designed the trap, made me take over the caravans and led me to sign the documents? Yes, I do not deny it. But when the first coded letter appeared, you had a chance to stop. When the second shipment included iron goods, you could have reported it. Even after the Duke's household took away your seal, you stole it back and dispatched the final shipment. Every time, you chose to continue. For the first time, bewilderment appeared in her eyes. If you had been me, could you truly have abandoned the status of legitimate daughter, mother's love, and a marriage into the Duke's household? I already did. I looked at her. On the day I left, I had nothing. You simply refused to believe that a person could live after leaving the Marquis household. Shen Mingju was taken to the prison cart. She did not beg me again. Father passed last, still cursing Pei Shen for betraying him, Mingju for being foolish, and me for being unfilial. Even at the end, he never admitted he had been wrong. The girl from my previous life who had desperately longed for his approval suddenly felt very far away. The next day, an imperial decree cleared Gu Chenglan's name and restored his military status. For rebuilding the northern grain route, assisting in the defeat of the enemy, and uncovering the old case, he was ennobled as the Marquis of Jingbian. The emperor asked whether he wished to reclaim the former Gu residence. Uncle refused. I wish to build the new Marquis residence beside Guian Estate. For gathering military supplies and resettling military households, I was granted the title County Princess Zhongning and 1,000 mu of fertile land. I incorporated most of the awarded land into Guian Estate to house disabled soldiers and widows from military households. Liu Niang scolded me for not knowing how to enjoy good fortune. Other women receive a county princess title and immediately build gardens and buy jewelry. You use everything to support more people. Can a garden make medicinal crops grow? No. Can jewelry produce grain? No. Then this is enough. After scolding me, she turned around and began planning a new textile workshop. Qianfu accepted 3 students and taught the children of military families how to keep accounts. On the first day of class, he voluntarily spoke of his mistake in remaining silent out of fear. Learning to read and calculate is not only for earning money. It lets you understand what others ask you to sign, and one day it may give you the courage to write down the truth. Qin Yao was appointed deputy inspector of the northern trade route. Before leaving the capital, he came to Guian Estate to say farewell. Miss Shen, I used to fear that you would become a burden to His Highness, and now I fear His Highness will become a burden to you. Xiao Jingheng stood behind him with a calm expression. You will depart early tomorrow, he said. Inspect every relay station 10 times along the road. Qin Yao immediately closed his mouth. Shen Huaiyan visited once. He brought a wooden case containing the belongings my foster mother had left me, the same things father confiscated under the excuse of teaching me household rules when I first returned. I kept them hidden, he said. Why give them to me only now? He lowered his head. I was afraid before. I accepted the case. Thank you. Hope appeared faintly in his eyes. Zhongning, can we still know? My answer came quickly. Your final testimony saved many people. I will remember that. But I also remember every time you remained silent before. Late conscience deserves acknowledgement, but it cannot restore a relationship that has already died. On the day the Marquis of Jingbian's residence officially opened, Gu Chenglan worked through the night. He claimed the plaque was only a piece of wood, yet the next morning he personally inspected the stone steps 3 times, because he feared I might trip when entering. Workers raised the plaque bearing the words Jingbian Marquis Residence. At the opposite end of the city, the old plaque of the Dinghuan Marquis household was taken to the government storehouse to be destroyed. 5 years earlier, one side represented glory and the other disgrace. 5 years later, their positions had completely reversed. But I no longer needed the Shen family's fall to prove my worth. My life already held far more than revenge. That evening, Xiao Jingheng arrived. He brought no imperial decree and no ceremonial retinue from Prince Su's household. He came alone on horseback, carrying a long wooden case. Gu Chenglan stood at the gate with an unfriendly expression. What brings your highness here? To ask for Zhaoning's hand. Uncle's face darkened immediately. Who permitted you to come? No one. That is why I came to ask. Xiao Jingheng opened the case. It contained no jewelry, but a marriage agreement filled with detailed conditions. The first clause stated that Guian Estate would remain entirely mine. After marriage, no one could interfere with its affairs in the name of Prince Su's household. The second stated that military widows and disabled soldiers living there could not be expelled because of my marriage. The third allowed me to continue managing the caravans, textile workshops, and medicinal fields, with all income under my own control. The fourth required any conflict of interest between Prince Su's household and Guian estate to be resolved by contract and negotiation, never by forcing obedience through marital status. The fifth required major decisions to be discussed together. The agreement ran to 12 pages. Uncle's brows drew tighter with every page. Who wrote this? I did. You are an imperial heir, yet your marriage agreement reads like a business contract. Zoning trusts contracts. Standing beneath the veranda, I could not keep from laughing. Uncle turned and glared at me. You are still laughing? Is it badly written? It is too long. The longer it is, the less likely anything will be left out, Xiao Jingheng said. He walked to me and took out the protective knot. It survived 5 years of wind and snow. I have brought it back as promised. I accepted it. You also promised to say what you wished to say when you returned. Yes. Before everyone in the courtyard, he went down on one knee. He did not look at me as a county princess or as the niece of a newly ennobled marquis. He looked at me only as a man making a request. Shen Zhoning, I wish to marry you. Not to bring you into Prince Su's household as someone's dependent, but to continue beside you the work we are already doing. Will you agree? I did not answer immediately. In my previous life, I had imagined marriage countless times. I believed a prestigious husband would make my parents think more highly of me. I believed that if my husband held power, it would prove I deserved more love than Shen Mingzhu. But if a man did not respect me, the highest status and greatest favor would only create another prison. Xiao Jingheng had never asked for the keys to my estate. He had even written my right to choose into the marriage agreement with his own hand. I agree. Behind me, Gu Chenglan struck his cane heavily against the ground. I have not agreed. Uncle, the 7th clause is unclear. Xiao Jingheng immediately rose. Which part? If Zhao wishes to live permanently at Guian Estate, you may not obstruct her. We can change it to say that she decides for herself where she lives each year. And the children cannot all bear the surname Xiao. Everyone in the courtyard froze. Heat rushed to my face. Uncle, this is far too early. The earlier it is written, the fewer disputes later. Xiao Jingheng nodded seriously. The eldest son may take the surname Xiao. A second son or daughter may take Zhao surname Gu. Would that satisfy you? Gu Chenglan glanced at me. Why Gu? Because she may not wish to preserve Shen. My nose suddenly stung. By the end, the marriage agreement had expanded to 15 pages. Liu Niang held the newly added clauses and laughed so hard she could barely straighten her back. The wedding was set for the following spring. I did not stop managing the estate. Guian Estate opened a military clinic. Uncle Song accepted several apprentices. Liu Niang independently negotiated a major contract with Zhongnan merchants and became the true head manager of the textile workshops. Gu Chenglan established a military academy beside the new marquis residence. He could no longer ride, but he could give years of experience to young officers. Someone once asked whether he regretted that his leg would never heal. He tapped the sand table with his cane. My leg is broken, my mind is not. The saying later spread throughout the Northern Army. The day before the wedding, I visited the former site of the Dingwan Marquis household. It had been converted into a government school. The courtyards that once displayed wealth were now filled with the sound of children reading. I stood outside the hall where I had once knelt, and seemed to see my 15-year-old self again. She was crying and begging her parents to keep her. She believed being sent away was the worst thing that could happen in her life. I wanted to tell her that leaving was not the most frightening thing. The truly frightening thing was losing herself again and again, merely to remain beside people who did not love her. Xiao Jingheng approached from behind. A place where I once lived. Do you want to go inside? No. He naturally took the umbrella from my hand. Uncle has sent people to hurry us 3 times, I said. Why? He is afraid I will be abducted before the wedding. Would I do that? The 11th clause says you may not act against my wishes. I laughed aloud. Sunset covered the long street. We walked side by side toward Guian Estate. On the wedding day, I did not depart from the Marquis household, nor did Prince Su's household decide the grandeur of my procession. I left for my wedding from Guian Estate. Gu Chenglan personally escorted me to the gate. At the final stone step, he suddenly stopped. If you suffer any grievance, come home. Xiao Jingheng immediately said, there will never be such a day. Uncle looked at him coldly. I am speaking to Zhao. I held Uncle's hand. I will return often. It is written in the agreement. He turned his face away, but his eyes were red. Before entering the bridal sedan, I looked back at the mountains of medicinal fields surrounding Guian Estate. Spring wind passed over them, and new shoots broke through the soil. 5 years earlier, everyone said nothing good could grow in wasteland. They said a lame convicted official could never rise again. They said the true daughter abandoned by a marquis household would eventually return in tears. 5 years later, Uncle's name had been cleared and he had been ennobled. Guian Estate's grain carts traveled throughout the north. The household Shen Mingju had been so proud of was confiscated completely for treason. But that was not the ending I valued most. What mattered most was that Guian Estate would always keep a light burning for me. Uncle would stand at the gate and complain that I had returned too late. Lunyang would bring freshly steamed pastries and scold me for caring only about accounts. Xiao Jingheng would write every promise in black and white, then return the choice to my hands. I had been abandoned, exploited, and treated as a piece that could be sacrificed at any time. Yet as long as the roots remained, and a person was willing to rise again from the mud, one day she could grow branches and leaves of her own. The bridal sedan moved slowly forward. This time, no one was sending me away. I carried my own name, property, family, and choices into a new life. No matter how far I traveled, I knew there would always be a road leading home behind me. Bonus chapter. The Heir has not privileges at Guian Estate. During the first month after Xiao Jingheng and I married, he discovered an extremely serious fact. The dignified heir of Prince Su could use an official token to examine Ministry of War archives in the capital, but at Guian Estate he was not even qualified to touch one basket of astragalus. The incident occurred on a clear and pleasant morning. When I woke, the place beside me was already empty. The bedding still held warmth, but Xiao Jingheng was nowhere to be found. I first assumed Prince Su's household had summoned him unexpectedly. Only after washing did I hear a maid say that the heir had gone to the drying yard before dawn. When I arrived, a crowd had already gathered. Uncle Song stood at the front, his beard trembling with anger. Xiao Jingheng, wearing a practical narrow-sleeved robe, stood between two bamboo baskets and looked unusually uncertain. The basket on the left had contained astragalus. The basket on the right had contained licorice. Now the two herbs were thoroughly mixed. Uncle Song struck the ground with his cane. "Did I not tell you yesterday? Astragalus on the left, licorice on the right." Xiao Jingheng answered with proper seriousness. "You did. Then why are they mixed?" Qin Yao told me the herbs needed to be turned halfway through drying. Qin Yao, standing at the back of the crowd, changed color. "I said to turn them, not switch their baskets." Xiao Jingheng looked at him. Qin Yao immediately straightened. "Of course, perhaps I did not explain it clearly enough." Uncle Song laughed coldly. "If military weapons disappear at the frontier, can you also claim someone failed to explain clearly?" Xiao Jingheng fell silent. Qin Yao quietly moved half a step backward. I suppressed my laughter and approached. "What happened?" The moment Xiao Jingheng saw me, his expression visibly relaxed. "I intended to reduce your work." Uncle Song exposed him without mercy. "He heard last night that you had 3 account books to review today, so he planned to turn all the herbs before dawn and save you some trouble. Unfortunately, he has not even finished turning them and has already added half a day's work for me." Several women in the crowd covered their mouths and laughed. Xiao Jingheng coughed lightly. "Only 2 baskets were mixed. We can separate them again." Uncle Song stared at him. "Can your highness tell astragalus from licorice?" "Of course." "Then your highness may sort them personally." Xiao Jingheng lowered his gaze to the 2 baskets of remarkably similar dried roots. The courtyard became quiet. I asked, "Can you manage it?" His expression did not change. "It will require some time." Uncle Song turned away. "If they are not separated before noon, you may not eat." Qin Yao immediately stepped forward. "My lord, I will help." Without turning, Uncle Song added, "Whoever mixed them must separate them. Anyone who helps may also go without food." Qin Yao silently withdrew his foot. Xiao Jingheng looked at him. "Did you not just offer assistance?" Qin Yao lowered his voice. "I suddenly remembered that the north warehouse door may not be locked. The north warehouse has 3 locks. I am concerned about a 4th. He turned and fled. I finally laughed aloud. Xiao Jingheng looked at me with faint accusation. "My wife does not intend to help me?" "The 3rd clause of our marriage agreement clearly states that I may independently manage Guian Estate's businesses. It does not say I am required to help. The 5th clause says major decisions must be discussed together." I answered seriously, "These are only 2 baskets of herbs. It is not a major decision." He looked at the baskets, then at me. "I now consider it very major." In the end, he did finish before noon. Whether he separated every piece correctly, Uncle Song never said. But the following day, a wooden sign appeared outside the drying yard. The heir of Prince may not handle medicinal herbs without parishionant. Qin Yao laughed too loudly when he saw it. That afternoon, Xiao Jingheng sent him to count every sack in the north warehouse. There were 1,372 sacks, and Qin Yao had to press each one by hand to check for dampness. From then on, he no longer dared mock his master at Guian Estate. He had discovered that whenever the heir was punished, his guard usually suffered even more. Xiao Jingheng's second great setback at Guian Estate was learning to ride a donkey. The estate owned horses, including several excellent ones. But one day, a shipment of young medicinal plants had to be carried to new fields behind the mountain. The path was too narrow for wagons, so the plants had to be loaded onto donkeys. Gu Chenglan sat in the courtyard drinking tea. Seeing Xiao Jingheng standing idle, he said casually, "Since you are here, do not merely stand around." Xiao Jingheng naturally asked, "What should I do?" Uncle pointed toward a gray donkey beside the wall. "Take the seedlings to the rear mountain." The donkey was named Great General. Liu Niang had chosen the name because he had an enormous temper and seemed determined every day to lead every donkey on the estate in rebellion. Xiao Jingheng stood before Great General. Great General raised his head and looked at him. Man and donkey stared at one another for a long time. Gu Chenglan slowly drank his tea. "Does your highness not know how to ride a donkey? I have ridden horses. Donkeys and horses both have 4 legs. They should be similar." Xiao Jingheng mounted with practiced ease. Great General did not move. He pressed his heels against the donkey's sides. Great General remained still. Qin Yao stood nearby and cautiously suggested, "My lord, should you use a whip?" Liu Niang immediately glared at him. "If you dare strike Great General, you will sleep in the donkey shed tonight." Qin Yao closed his mouth. Xiao Jingheng bent forward and patted the donkey's neck. "Go." Great General swished his tail and did not move. Uncle asked, "How does your highness usually command 3 armies? Military orders are absolute." "Then give him a military order." After a moment of silence, Xiao Jingxing said, "Great General, advance." The donkey abruptly turned its head and bit the hem of his robe. Laughter burst through the courtyard. Even the usually steady Qian Fu clutched an account book and doubled over laughing. When I arrived, Xiao Jingheng was still sitting on the donkey, locked in a stalemate. The corner of his robe remained in Great General's mouth. "What happened?" Gu Chenglan looked entirely calm. "The heir of Prince Su is deploying troops." I pressed my lips together, trying not to laugh. Xiao Jingheng looked at me, joning. Whenever he addressed me by my full name, it usually meant he needed me to preserve some of his dignity. I walked to Great General and took a piece of malt candy from my sleeve. The donkey immediately released Xiao Jingheng's robe and followed me. Xiao Jingheng remained silent on its back for a long time. "Why does he obey you?" "Because I gave him candy." "A military order is less useful than candy." "For a donkey, yes." Gu Chenglan added from behind us, "Sometimes for people too." That day, Xiao Jingheng made 3 trips carrying seedlings on a donkey. When he returned, he had bought a large bag of malt candy in the city. I assumed it was for Great General. Instead, that evening, he placed the bag in front of me. "What is this for?" "Uncle said today that candy can sometimes accomplish more than an order." I looked at him. He unwrapped a piece and held it to my lips. "My wife, could you review accounts for half an hour less tomorrow?" I took the candy and slowly bit it. "No." His eyebrow rose slightly. "It worked." "Then why did you refuse?" "It only purchased my willingness to hear your request." He watched me for a moment, then removed another piece. "What about 2? I shook my head. "3. "No, the entire bag." I suppressed a smile. "Your Highness, this is not bargaining at the Ministry of War." "I know." He placed the entire bag in my arms. "The Ministry of War is easier to negotiate with than you." The following day, I did spend half an hour less on the accounts. It was not because of the candy. Xiao Jingheng had already reviewed the remaining ledgers and circled 3 errors. I asked when he had done it. "Last night." "How long did you sleep?" He remained silent. I confiscated the entire bag of malt candy and added another clause to the marriage agreement. He may not stay up late behind my back under the pretext of helping with estate affairs. Xiao Jingheng read the addition and seriously objected. "The agreement has already been executed. Clauses cannot be appended at will." I handed him the brush. "You may refuse to sign." He took the brush and signed his name almost immediately. Uncle watched from the side with great satisfaction. At least he knows when to be sensible. Guian Estate truly became lively when I became pregnant. I discovered it while inspecting newly arrived cotton thread in the textile workshop. Uncle Song checked my pulse, stroked his beard once, and then a second time. Lu Niang paced beside him anxiously. "What is wrong?" Uncle Song answered slowly. "It is not an illness." She became even more alarmed. "If it is not an illness, why do you look so serious?" He glanced at me. "Her pulse indicates pregnancy." The workshop remained silent for 3 full breaths. Then Liu Niang screamed and nearly overturned the divat. When the news reached the Jingbian Marquis residence, Gu Chenglan was teaching young generals about grain roots at the military academy. According to those present, the wooden pointer fell directly from his hand onto the sand table. That evening, Xiao Jingheng rode back from the capital. He entered before his breathing had settled, clearly having changed horses without stopping. When he saw me sitting safely, he stopped at the doorway as though he did not dare approach. Has Uncle Song confirmed it? He has. Do you feel unwell? Not at present. What did you eat today? Porridge in the morning and fish at noon. What kind of fish? Where did it come from? Was it inspected? Before I could answer, Uncle Song emerged from the side. If your highness is still worried, perhaps you should catch every fish in the world and inspect them one by one. Xiao Jingheng immediately bowed. I will trouble Uncle Song to take care of her. His excessive solemnity left Uncle Song momentarily speechless. Gu Chenglan arrived soon afterward. Uncle first asked the exact same questions as Xiao Jingheng: what I had eaten, how long I had slept, and whether I felt dizzy. The two men stood on either side of me like officials conducting an interrogation. At last, I could bear no more. I am pregnant. I have not contracted a grave illness. Xiao Jingheng immediately said, do not say such unlucky things. Gu Chenglan nodded. Indeed. I looked toward Uncle Song. He stroked his beard. The first 3 months require caution. Excellent. For the first time in Guyana State's history, 3 people took the same side and left me isolated. Beginning the next day, my movements were strictly limited. Xiao Jingheng ordered handrails added beside every step. Gu Chenglan had every protruding stone across Guyana State repaved. Liu Niang was even more excessive. She replaced my familiar abacus with one made from lightweight wood. The old beads are too heavy, they will hurt your hands. I stared at the new abacus. The whole thing was so light that the slightest touch sent it skittering across the table. How am I supposed to calculate with this? Calculate slowly, there is no hurry. I picked up an account book. Liu Niang immediately took it from me. There are too many pages. Reading them will tire you. Liu Niang, what exactly do you expect me to do? She thought seriously. Sit. I was forced to sit for 3 days. On the 4th, I slipped out to the medicinal fields while no one was watching. I had reached only halfway when the tap of a cane sounded behind me. Gu Chenglan stood at the end of the path. Where are you going? For a walk. This road leads to the herb fields. I am walking to the herb fields. Uncle glanced at the maid behind me. She immediately lowered her head. My lord, I could not stop her. I told her not to speak, I said helplessly. Gu Chenglan approached. You may look at the fields, but you may not crouch, touch water, or cross the ditch by yourself. Uncle, I am not porcelain. Broken porcelain can be pieced together. For once I had no reply. That evening I complained to Xiao Jingheng that everyone treated me as if I could no longer walk. He was revising official documents beneath the lamp and nodded. They have gone too far. My eyes brightened. You agree? I will speak with Uncle tomorrow. The next day, after the 2 men spoke, Guyana State prepared a padded sedan chair for me. I stood before it for a long time without speaking. Xiao Jingheng explained seriously, you may go anywhere you wish without needing to walk. This was the result of your discussion? Uncle originally intended to keep you inside. I negotiated the sedan chair. He sounded completely honest. I turned and walked away. Xiao Jingheng followed. Are you angry? No, you are walking very quickly, because I fear that if I slow down you will carry a bed outside for me. He considered it. That is not impossible. I stopped. He immediately corrected himself. It is impossible. Before the children were born, the greatest dispute concerned their surnames. Gu Chenglan insisted that at least one child must bear the surname Gu. Prince Su argued that the first child of an imperial clan heir should naturally bear the surname Xiao. The 2 elders argued for half a month. I sat nearby drinking soup, while Xiao Jingheng shelled walnuts beside me. Prince Su said, the agreement clearly states that the eldest son takes the surname Xiao. Gu Chenglan laughed coldly. Who knows whether the first child will be a boy or a girl? Boy or girl, the firstborn is the eldest son or eldest daughter. What if there are twins? Prince Su froze. How could there be such a coincidence? Uncle Song happened to pass the doorway and casually said, it is not impossible. Both elders turned toward him. What do you mean? Uncle Song stroked his beard. Her pulse is somewhat stronger than is usual in pregnancy. The room fell silent. Gu Chenglan rose first. Why did you not say so earlier? It was too early to be certain. Prince Su also stood. If there are truly 2, will it be dangerous? The heir's consort is in good health. She need only rest properly. From that day forward, my padded sedan became an extra padded sedan. The handrails beside the steps received another layer of soft cloth. Even Great General was led far away whenever he saw me. The donkey has a temper, Liu Ning explained. He must not frighten the young lady. Great General appeared insulted and refused to pull a cart for 3 consecutive days. Only after I personally fed him 2 pieces of malt candy did he return to work. On the day of the birth, the courtyard outside my room was packed with people. Xiao Jingheng paced continuously. Gu Chenglan sat on a stone bench with his cane, appearing calm, though he never drank the tea in his hand. Prince Su repeatedly asked Uncle Song when the child would come. At last, Uncle Song became annoyed. "If your highness asks one more time, you may enter and deliver the child yourself." Prince Su immediately fell silent. Qin Yao was responsible for carrying hot water. He ran too quickly, stepped into a ditch, and fell in completely, soaking himself from head to foot. Liu Niang rushed out and shouted, "I told you to boil water, not yourself." The courtyard was in chaos until a baby's cry came from inside. The first cry had barely ended when a second followed. Twins. The midwife brought out 2 swaddled babies, a baby boy and a baby girl. Gu Chenglan and Prince Su rose at the same time and looked at each other. Prince Su spoke first. "The boy takes the surname Xiao." Gu Chenglan said the girl takes the surname Gu. Prince Su considered it. Agreed. Everyone relaxed. Then the midwife smiled. "The girl is the elder twin. She was born about 7 or 8 minutes earlier." Prince Su's expression froze. Gu Chenglan slowly began to smile. "The marriage agreement says the eldest son takes the surname Xiao. It says nothing about the surname of the eldest daughter." When Xiao Jingheng emerged from the room, he heard the sentence. His robe was wrinkled from my grip, and his face was paler than when he returned from battle. "We can discuss the surnames later." Gu Chenglan frowned. "This is important. Jiaoning has just fallen asleep." Xiao Jingheng lowered his voice. "If anyone argues outside the door, I will register both children under Guian Estate's household roles." "With the surname Guian?" Prince Su asked in disbelief. "No one in the world bears that surname." "Then they may take the surname Yaoshan Medicinal Field." Even Gu Chenglan fell silent. "In the end, the elder sister took my maternal surname and was named Gu Chongning. Her younger brother was named Xiao Huaiyan. After the names were chosen, Shen Huaiyan sent gifts." When he heard the boy's name sounded the same as his own, he stood in place for a long time. The written characters were actually different. But I did not deliberately explain. Some late acts of goodwill cannot restore a relationship, yet neither must they be trampled forever into the dust. When the twins turned 1, Guian Estate held a traditional object-choosing ceremony. On the table lay books, brushes, an abacus, a wooden sword, medicinal herbs, an official seal, and a small bag of grain. Cheng Ning crawled forward first. Gu Chenglan stood beside the table full of expectation. "She will choose the wooden sword." Prince Su hoped she would choose the seal. Behind them, Liu Niang whispered, "Choose the abacus. You can manage the textile workshops later." Uncle Song objected. "Medicinal herbs are the proper path." Cheng Ning sat in the middle of the table and looked in every direction for a long time. Then she seized the plate of pastries. She hugged the osmanthus cakes to her chest and refused to share them. Everyone fell silent. I suppressed a smile. At least she knows what is practical. Then it was Huaiyan's turn. Xiao Jingheng quietly pushed the wooden sword a little closer. Gu Chenglan immediately said, "No cheating. The table is uneven. The table is perfectly level." Without changing expression, Xiao Jingheng withdrew his hand. Huaiyan crawled to the edge of the table. He did not choose the wooden sword or the abacus. Instead, he grabbed the money pouch at Xiao Jingheng's waist and refused to release it. Qin Yao laughed first. "The young master will surely be skilled at financials management." Liu Niang said, "What financial management? He simply knows how to choose the richest person." Prince Su was extremely pleased. "He has good judgment." Xiao Jingheng removed the pouch and placed it directly in his son's arms. I asked, "How much silver is inside?" "I left in haste today." "Not much." Qin Yao reminded him, "My lord, those are the banknotes you just received from the Ministry of Revenue for repairing the northern road." Xiao Jing's hand stopped. Huaiyan had already rolled to the other side of the table with the pouch in his arms. Gu Chenglan said calmly, "Your own son took it. You may not change your mind." Xiao Jingheng looked at me. I lifted my tea. Guian Estate has no rule allowing adults to steal from children. Huaiyan slept with the pouch in his arms that night. It was found beneath the bedding the following morning. Not one coin of the Northern Road Fund was missing, but 2 tiny bite marks appeared on the pouch. When officials at the Ministry of Revenue received the pouch of banknotes, they stared at the bite marks for a long time. Xiao Jingheng gave only one explanation. "My household was attacked by bandits. When the children were 3, they learned to tattle and became experts at splitting up to make their complaints. Whenever Changning did something wrong, she ran first into Gu Chenglan's arms. Huaiyan ran to his grandfather, Prince Su. Each child hugged one elder's leg, and neither admitted who had acted first. Once they poured the medicinal herbs Uncle Song had just dried into Great General's feeding trough. Uncle Song was so angry that he chased them across the estate. Changning hid behind Gu Chenglan. It was little brother, he said. Great General was sick. Huaiyan clung to Prince Su. It was elder sister. She said he needed to eat more to become healthy. Gu Chenglan asked. Chongning pointed at her brother. Huaiyan pointed at his sister. Two small fingers met in the air, then turned together toward Great General. The donkey stood nearby chewing licorice, looking entirely innocent. Uncle Song laughed coldly. Can a donkey open the medicine cabinet by himself? Changning nodded seriously. He is very clever. Huaiyan also nodded. Cleverer than father. Xiao Jingheng, who had just entered, stopped. Why am I the comparison? Huaiyan answered. Great General can tell astragalus from licorice. The courtyard erupted with thunderous laughter. The story of Xiao Jingheng mixing the herbs years earlier had originally been known only to the older people of the estate. Somehow, someone had told both children. Xiao Jingheng slowly looked toward Qin Yao. Qin Yao immediately stepped backward. It was not me. I have not asked. I am merely declaring from behind Guozhen. Chenglan. Uncle Qin told us. Qin Yao froze. Huaiyan added. Uncle Qin also said father rode a donkey and lost to candy. Xiao Jingheng nodded. Very good. Qin Yao's face became miserable. My lord, I must travel north tomorrow. There is no need. His eyes brightened. Thank you, my lord. Remain on the estate and teach them to identify medicinal herbs. The smile vanished. Uncle Song placed an herbal compendium thicker than a brick into Qin Yao's arms. Memorize it yourself first. That evening, Qin Yao sat beneath the veranda reciting medicinal names. The two children sat beside him, one on each side. Changning asked, Uncle Qin, what is astragalus? A tonic that replenishes vital energy, or qi. Huaiyan asked, what about licorice? It harmonizes other medicines. Changning asked again, what about father? Qin Jiao glanced toward Xiao Jingheng in the distance. Your father is also a good medicine. Huaiyan tilted his head. What does he cure? Qin Yao thought for a long time. Talkative subordinates. The following day, Qin Yao still departed for the north. It was said that he left in such haste he did not even eat breakfast. Another spring arrived. Small flowers spread across Guian Estate's medicinal fields. I sat beneath the veranda reviewing accounts. Chongning held a wooden sword and practiced footwork with Gu Chenglan. Huaiyan rode Great General as Prince Su personally led the donkey. Uncle Song scolded a new apprentice in the drying yard. Liunyang chased Qin Yao to demand the unpaid balance on the previous year's military uniforms. Xiao Heng returned from the capital and stood outside the gate for a long time. I raised my head. Why do you not come inside? I was thinking about something. What? The first time I came here, the courtyard wall had collapsed and the canal was dry. Now it is noisier than Prince Su's residence. I closed the account book. Do you dislike it? I like it. He came to my side and set a paper packet on the table. It contained malt candy. I picked up one piece. What condition do you wish to negotiate this time? None. Truly? Great General saw me and kept staring at my sleeve. In the distance, Great General was indeed walking slowly toward Xiao Jingheng. He sniffed him, then expertly pushed his head into the man's sleeve. Changning clapped and laughed. Father has been robbed again. Huaiyan slid from the donkey and hugged Xiao Jingheng's leg. Father, is there more candy? Xiao Jingheng looked at our children, then at me. I truly have no privileges at Guian Estate. I offered him one piece of candy. You have one. What is it? You may eat one more piece than everyone else. He lowered his head and bit the candy from my hand. The children immediately shouted, I want one too. Father stole mother's candy. Great uncle, father broke the rules. Gu Chenglan approached with his cane. Xiao Jingheng had not yet swallowed the candy. Uncle. Who is your uncle? Marquis Gu. What does the 13th clause of the marriage agreement say? After a moment of silence, Xiao Jingheng recited, You may not compete with the children for food. Then what are you doing? He looked at me. My wife gave it to me. Gu Chenglan also looked at me. I lifted my tea and pretended not to hear. Xiao Jingsheng finally understood that no one would defend him that day. He took out the entire packet of candy, divided it between the children, and gave some to Great General. Only one piece remained. He quickly put it into his own mouth. Gu Chenglan frowned. Where is mine? Xiao Jingheng froze. The courtyard was quiet for a breath. Then everyone burst into laughter. I looked at the people making a commotion before me, and an indescribable peace settled in my heart. In my previous life, I had fought desperately to remain in the Marquis household, because I feared being abandoned. Back then, I believed a home meant vermilion gates and high walls, blood ties with parents, and an identity acknowledged by everyone. Only later did I understand that a true home is not necessarily quiet or dignified. There may be arguments over candy every day. Someone may mix up the herbs, and someone may fall into the mud while riding a donkey. A marriage agreement may reach 15 pages, yet the entire family may still debate half a day over one osmanthus cake. But whenever I turn back, someone is always there. Someone complains that I review accounts too late. Someone fears I will fall while walking. Someone says I must not make trouble, yet lights every lamp at Guian Estate for me. Xiao Jingheng finally protected half of the last piece of malt candy from Gu Chenglan. He secretly pressed it into my palm. Hide it. You will not give it to uncle? I will buy more tomorrow. What if he discovers it? We will say Great General ate it. In the distance, Great General suddenly snorted. Gu Chenglan slowly turned his head. Xiao Jingheng grabbed my hand. Where are we going? I asked. The marriage agreement does not prohibit the heir from fleeing with his wife. We ran through the courtyard gate. Behind us came the children's excited shouts, Liu Niang's loud laughter, and the tap of uncle's cane against the ground. Spring wind swept over the medicinal fields. Every lamp across the estate lit one after another. I held Xiao Jingheng's hand and laughed until I could barely remain upright. This was probably the best ending my second life could have given me. Not the high title of county princess, not the satisfaction of watching the Marquis household collapse, but the certainty that wherever I went, someone would always wait with a smile for me to come home. Thank you for supporting Panda. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more amazing stories. Now, let's begin story 2. What was the very height of bad luck in the imperial harem? It was standing around, yawning and watching the birds, only for some idle woman to rush over, step on your foot, then collapse and accuse you of harming her. That morning, the autumn winds sighed through the imperial garden. I, talented Lady Ye Taoyao, was hiding behind a peony bush, half asleep as I wondered whether the imperial kitchen would serve red braised pork for lunch. Suddenly, a suffocating cloud of perfume swept toward me. The emperor's current favorite, noble consort Xiao Wanqing, strolled past in a gauzy silk robe. Heaven and earth could testify that I had not moved even half a step. Yet the trailing hem of her long dress brushed past and snagged precisely on the jeweled tip of my shoe. Rip! A tiny sound rang out, and a tear no bigger than a little fingernail appeared along the edge of her skirt. Before I could pull my foot back, noble consort Xiao launched into a performance that could have stunned every actor in the capital. She let out a piercing cry, swayed like a limp noodle, and collapsed onto the stone path. Ah, my stomach, my imperial child. Clutching her perfectly flat belly, she wept as though a string of pearls had snapped. The surrounding palace maids and eunuchs erupted into panicked shouts. At that exact moment, the emperor arrived with a bustling group of consorts. The instant noble consort Xiao caught sight of the emperor, she crawled across the ground, seized the hem of his robe and sobbed miserably. Your Majesty, it hurts so much. Talented Lady Yi is jealous of your favor. She deliberately tripped me. She even hid a cursed doll in her sleeve to place a spell on the imperial child. Your Majesty, you must seek justice for me and our child. I stared at her with my mouth hanging open. The most absurd part was that I had not even known she was pregnant. And where was I supposed to find money for a cursed doll? I had been so poor the previous month that I survived on plain water. The emperor, the most blindly foolish ruler in the dynasty, rushed forward and gathered his beloved consort into his arms, glaring at me as though I were his sworn enemy. Your Majesty, please hear my explanation. I raised a hand, trying to salvage a shred of justice.
Insolent wretch!
The emperor roared, cutting me off. Without investigating anything, he swept his sleeve and issued his decree. Attempting to harm an imperial heir is an unforgivable crime. Strip her of her title at once, drag her to Changqiu courtyard, and confine her there forever. And just like that, I received a one-way ticket to the Cold Palace, a place notorious for ghosts and wandering spirits. Two fierce-looking guards dragged me along one endless corridor after another, yanking so roughly that they tore a large patch from the shoulder of my robe. When we passed the imperial kitchen, the rich aroma of pork fat rushed straight into my nose and instantly awakened my strongest instinct for survival. Life and death could wait. First, my stomach had to be full. Hunger was dignity's greatest enemy. Wait! I suddenly shouted, planted both feet on the ground, and pretended to slip. When the startled guards loosened their grip, I moved with lightning speed. I snatched half a cold, discarded pork-filled pastry from a nearby stone table and shoved it deep into my wide sleeve. At the same time, I noticed a pile of discarded ritual objects that some junior eunuch had left scattered in the corner. I swept up a dried bulb of garlic and a peachwood sword with its tip broken off, clutching both in my hands. What are you doing? Move, one irritable guard barked as he jerked my arm. I clambered upright, dusted off my skirt, and replied without changing expression. My leg cramped. Why are you so tense? Fine, I'm going. How could they understand my profound philosophy? Food gave a person strength, and garlic warded off evil. The cold palace lacked everything. I had to outlive that idle, weeping woman. At sunset, the gates of Changqiu Courtyard slammed shut behind me. Clang. The heavy iron lock dropped into place, severing every connection to the prosperous world outside. Changqiu Courtyard immediately revealed its true face, an earthly graveyard. Waist-high weeds grew through cracked paving stones, cobwebs veiled every faded pillar, and the cold autumn wind shrieked through broken windows, like ghosts wailing and wolves howling. Gritting my teeth, I entered the damp, musty bedchamber, curled up on a rough wooden bed full of splinters, and pulled a torn cotton quilt over myself. My left hand brandished a half-peeled bulb of garlic, while my right gripped the broken peachwood sword. My teeth chattered as I muttered an incantation under my breath. Supreme Lord Lao, act swiftly as the law commands. Merciful Buddha, drive away all demons and evil spirits. My tongue might have been sharp, but my courage was smaller than a peppercorn. All at once, the temperature in the room plummeted. A bone-deep chills seeped into my marrow, and the basin of water in the corner crackled as ice spread across it. Pale moonlight streamed through the window, only to be blocked in an instant by 3 clouds of white mist. They floated soundlessly through the thick brick wall and glided toward the center of the room. My eyes nearly rolled back in terror. Real ghosts, and they had even come as a group to inspect their new roommate. The first white figure wore a thin silk robe, with long black hair trailing to the floor. She drifted toward the edge of my bed. Holding my breath, I squeezed my eyes shut and waited for her to lunge at me with bared fangs and raised claws, ready to tear me apart. Yet the ghost completely ignored me. Her eyes glowed like lanterns, fixed on the sleeve hiding my pastry. Little sister, her syrupy voice was followed by an unmistakable gulp. You have a pork-filled pastry hidden in your sleeve, don't you? I am starving, offer it to me at once. I also want black sesame, glutinous rice balls. I cracked one eye open and saw her hovering there with both hands cupping her cheeks coquettishly. A hungry ghost had hunger driven her out of her mind? Before I could react, a blast of freezing yin energy tore through the room like a fierce winter gale. The second white figure appeared in battered armor, still imposing despite the damage, and blew the gluttonous ghost straight into the corner, pinning her against the wall. The ghostly woman general hovered half a foot above the ground, planted both hands on her hips, and demanded furiously, "Stupid girl, answer me! Who dared dump a basinful of dog-washing water outside Tai Hall? Speak!" I wish I could gather enough resentment to curse that wretched puddle until it evaporated forever. Dog-washing water? From the darkest corner of the room, the third white figure quietly floated out. Ignoring the noisy quarrel between the other 2 ghosts, she sat obediently in midair. She acted as though she were holding an invisible infant's undergarment, her translucent fingers moving as if placing one careful stitch after another. You 2 are so noisy. She tilted her head and looked at me with melancholy eyes. Little sister, the guards tore the fabric at your shoulder. The draft must feel cold. Would you like me to float behind you and breathe a little cold air onto your neck to chill you fully awake? Gooseflesh rose over my body and every hair on my neck stood up. Awake, my foot. Who in their right mind would ask a ghost to breathe down her neck before sleep? Yanling Xiao snapped. Su Jiangwei, shut your mouth. Why are you still talking about rice balls? My dog-washing water grievance is a matter of national importance. The woman general turned to scold the hungry ghost. Yanling Xiao, stop being so fierce. How can anyone worry about national affairs on an empty stomach? I want minced pork, Su Jiangwei retorted, floating back and forth. The sewing ghost sighed. You 2 are so loud that you made me miss a stitch. In an instant, the silent cold palace became a marketplace noisy enough to split my head. My original fear of ghosts vanished completely, leaving only speechless exasperation. So there were no demons here, eager to tear the living apart. Only a few wandering female ghosts burdened with ridiculous obsessions. I was not afraid of ghosts, I was afraid of noise. Annoyed, I flung the garlic and broken sword onto the floor, shot to my feet, pulled out the flattened half-pastry and slapped it onto the chipped wooden table in the center of the room. All right. Do you ghosts want to eat or not? If you do, then all of you be quiet. I pressed my palms together and proclaimed solemnly, Heaven and earth bear witness. I, Ye Taoyao, hereby offer half a pork-filled pastry to the 3 honored sisters of the spirit realm. Please enjoy its essence and flavor. The moment they heard the word enjoy, the 3 ghost women fell silent and rushed to surround the table. They stretched their pale necks toward the pastry and inhaled deeply. A faint glow rose from the food and streamed straight into their noses. Before my eyes, the glossy golden pastry visibly collapsed. Its appetizing color turned gray. The shape remained intact, but the filling inside became dry and rigid, like a tasteless lump of candle wax. The spirits had drained away every trace of its mortal flavor. Su Jiangwei tipped her face toward the ceiling, her ghostly features filled with complete satisfaction. Wonderful. The fragrance of meat is so rich. I haven't smelled minced pork in 100 years. Add a bowl of black sesame glutinous rice balls, and it would be perfect. Yan Lingxiao withdrew her freezing aura and gave me an approving look. For such a stingy girl, you are surprisingly sensible. Since I have eaten your offering, I cannot be hard on you. From now on, this general officially accepts you as my little follower. I will protect you in this rubbish heap of Changqiu courtyard. Yun Wanshuang smiled sadly. Now that everyone is full, little sister, would you like me to breathe some cold air over you and lull you to sleep? No need. I raised a hand in refusal, climbed leisurely back onto the moldy bed, and crossed one leg over the other. 3 elder sisters, there is an old saying, favors must be returned. If you inhale the essence of my food, you have to work for your payment. I cleared my throat and issued my orders. From now on, you will be my eyes and ears. Every night, roam through the 6 palaces, uncover every secret hidden beneath every bed, and bring them back to entertain me. Report diligently. Tomorrow I promise to find a roasted sweet potato to offer you. Understood? 3 clouds of white mist nodded eagerly, their eyes blazing with a passion for gossip. In the blink of an eye, winter's bitter cold passed. Time swept over the broken roof tiles like the wind, and soon the blazing heat of summer engulfed the graveyard-like Changqiu courtyard. People often said that 9 out of 10 women sent to the cold palace died there. Many perished, while the survivors eventually lost their minds and tore at their clothes. No one could have imagined that I, talented Lady Yi Taoyao, would not only survive with astonishing resilience, but live so noisily that the whole courtyard seemed turned upside down. It was all thanks to my 3 guests from the spirit realm. Summer in Changqiu courtyard felt like an enormous alchemist's furnace. The weeds in the yard wilted, and cicadas droned until my head ached. I was so hot that I pulled out my hairpin, rolled up my sleeves, and sprawled with one leg crossed over the other on a rickety wicker chair beneath the old pagoda tree. Unable to endure another moment, I shouted, Sister Jiangwei, save me! The air shimmered and 2 clouds of white mist appeared. Yan Lingxiao folded her arms and gave me a scorching glare. Su Jiangwei floated back and forth, her dark hollow eyes blinking. I pointed above my head and smiled ingratiatingly. Dear sisters, please fly around over me for a while and send down some yin energy to cool me off. I swear, if the Imperial Kitchen throws away any chicken feet this afternoon, I'll bring them back for both of you to enjoy. The moment she heard chicken feet, Su Jiangwei brightened. She shot up into the branches of the pagoda tree and spun in circles, creating a cool whirlwind of yin energy that blew straight down onto my face. Yan Lingxiao clicked her tongue and grumbled that I was exploiting ghost labor, yet obediently gathered a breath of freezing air and blew it into the cup of water on the table. A layer of white frost instantly formed across the water. It was every bit as refreshing as the Empress Dowager's ice-chilled tea. So cool. A little more yin energy, Sister Jiangwei. I closed my eyes and savored my exclusive spirit realm cooling system. Life in the cold palace lacked nearly everything, so I had cleared a small patch of earth in one corner of the courtyard and planted a few cabbage seeds to improve our meals. The moment the tender green shoots emerged, a wretched flock of sparrows descended from nowhere and pecked them bare. Furious, I immediately sent Su Jiangwei into battle. And so, beneath the blazing midday sun, a long-haired ghost woman floated above the vegetable patch. Whenever the sparrows swooped down, Jiangwei released her resentful energy, widened her hollow eyes, and stuck out her long red tongue to frighten them away. The foolish birds could not see the ghost herself, but the sinister chill she released frightened them into flapping away in chaos, chirping wildly and shedding feathers. In return for this great service, I offered Jiangwei the first plate of garlic-fried greens from our harvest. She inhaled their essence so thoroughly that every stalk shriveled like dry straw. Once I had solved the problem of vegetables, I began eyeing a source of protein in the abandoned Bibo Lake behind Changqiu Courtyard. The water was deep green and crowded with water lilies, while schools of plump carp swam below. Unfortunately, I was both poor and lazy and did not own a proper fishing rod, so I decided to recruit my spirit realm squad for a fishing expedition. Carrying a bamboo basket riddled with holes, I waded into the mud at the shore. Yan Lingxiao floated above the water and pointed with a pale finger. There is a lotus root as thick as your calf beneath those lily pads. 3 steps to the right there is a cluster of shrimp under that rock. Su Jiangwei turned invisible and dived to the bottom of the lake. The carp could not see her, but their survival instincts made them extremely sensitive to her bone-chilling aura. Jiangwei drove her yin energy from the center of the lake toward the shore. Terrified, the fish thrashed and splashed, fleeing into the shallows on their own. Laughing loudly, I only had to scoop them up with the bamboo basket and toss them into my fish basket. While Jiangwei was busy driving the fish toward shore, Yan Lingxiao floated past the submerged rocks on the western side of the lake. She suddenly frowned and blurted out a complaint. The servants these days are hopelessly negligent. The underground drain leading to the river outside the city is completely blocked by mud and weeds. No wonder the lake has smelled so earthy lately. I was struggling to pull up a lotus root when her words made me freeze. An underground drain leading to the river outside the city? A strange light flashed in my eyes. I silently carved the location of those western rocks into my memory. The Imperial Palace was dangerously unpredictable, and a secret escape route could be the key to preserving my life. That evening, the cold palace filled with the aroma of secretly grilled carp. The 4 of us gathered in the cracked courtyard, and Su Jiangwei inhaled the steam rising from the fish before releasing a loud, satisfied burp. Yunwan Shuang sat obediently in one corner, her pale hands endlessly miming invisible stitches. In her mournful voice, she said, "Little sister, your silk dress is nearly in rags. Since we are free tonight, let me teach you embroidery and help you make a new outfit." I looked down at my frayed skirt and reluctantly nodded. Seeing truly was believing. Yunwan Shuang was indeed a master of needlework. She floated around me, patiently guiding every stitch with her translucent fingers. I labored over a piece of old curtain cloth, cutting and sewing until sweat covered my face. An hour later, I proudly held up my creation. Yunwan Shuang stared at it, the corner of her mouth twitching again and again. She gave a long sigh, floated behind the garment, and held it against her ghostly body as though trying it on. "Little sister," she said so mournfully that she sounded ready to cry, "I told you to embroider a white plum branch rising through the morning mist. How did you turn it into a crippled duck with all its feathers plucked out? And what is this shape? Are you planning to wear a sack over your head while stealing radishes from the imperial kitchen?" Yan Lingxiao, who had been trimming her invisible nails, glanced over and burst out laughing. "Wan Shuang, give up. Look at Taoyao's broad hands. She would find it easier to swing a saber in battle than hold an embroidery needle." My face burning, I threw the sack-like garment aside and lifted my chin stubbornly. "What do you know? Who am I supposed to dress beautifully for in Changqiu Courtyard? The ghosts." Then I changed the subject. "Sister Lingxiao, hurry and report what you discovered tonight." At the mention of gossip, Lingxiao instantly became excited. Every night she roamed through the palace residences, collecting countless shocking secrets that the servants intended to carry to their graves. She shot up to the ceiling, turned a somersault, and hovered in midair, launching her nightly under-the-bed gossip theater. Today I passed through Taiji Hall, just as that foolish ruler was washing his face before visiting a consort. Lingxiao planted her hands on her hips and laughed delightedly. "Do you know the earth-shattering secret I discovered? The current emperor looks majestic in public, with glossy black hair piled high, but the crown of his head is actually smooth and bare, like a peeled onion." My mouth fell open. "His Majesty is bald, of course." Lingxiao nodded repeatedly. "At night, when he removes his crown, he has to take off the false topknot made from horsetail hair as well. That leaves a huge bare patch right on top. I swear, if I blew a stream of yin energy over it, the chill would go straight into his brain." Su Jiangwei grew excited and floated into the courtyard to join the performance. Mimicking the coquettish manner of a favored consort, she said in a syrupy voice, "Oh, your Majesty, why is the top of your head glowing? This concubine is nearly blinded." Yunwan Shuang swung from a roof beam, giggling as she sang an improvised accompaniment. "The night is still, the moon shines bright, imperial grace glows from His Majesty's head." I clutched my stomach and laughed until I could barely breathe, pounding the table. Imagining that arrogant fool hiding his bald head from the world was immensely satisfying. Yet however great my amusement, the problem of food and survival never left me alone. Grilled carp was delicious, but eating it constantly became tiresome. I needed a better source of provisions. The eunuch responsible for delivering food to Changqiu Courtyard was a thoroughly vile man named Little Liuzi. Every day he stood outside the locked gate and threw in a few rancid buns as hard as stones, along with a stream of crude insults. The final insult came when he tossed me a bowl of water spinach soup with dead flies floating on top. Hunger could be endured, but humiliation could not be forgiven. Drawing a deep breath, I walked calmly to a crack in the rotting wooden gate. As Liuzi turned to leave, I spoke in a cool voice just loud enough to pass through the boards. Eunuch Liuzi, why are you leaving in such a hurry? Have you already gambled away all 30 taels of silver that you hid beneath the bed of the maid Cui Hua from the Imperial Pharmacy? Outside the gate, little Liuzi's footsteps stopped abruptly. I smiled coldly and delivered the next blow. Cui Hua complained bitterly last night. She said the wooden box where you hid the money beneath the third brick from the left corner of the wall reeks of mold. If the palace punishment office hears that a eunuch stole a noble's silver and concealed it in a palace maid's room, how long do you think your miserable life will last? My threat relied entirely on the precise intelligence Yan Lingxiao had gathered the previous night. Little Liuzi trembled outside the door like an autumn leaf. Through the wood, I could clearly hear his teeth chattering. How could a confined talented lady, locked behind high walls, know the hidden schedules of insignificant palace servants in such detail? Unless demons and ghosts were helping her. Your ladyship, please calm your anger. Liuzi's voice broke as he dropped to his knees in panic and knocked his forehead against the stone threshold. This servant deserves death. I was blind and ignorant. Please show mercy and keep this secret, your ladyship. I tapped the wooden gate and stated my conditions at an unhurried pace. I can keep quiet, but the weather has been hot lately, and my stomach can no longer tolerate rotten food. Starting tomorrow, prepare 1 whole golden brown roast chicken and a proper plate of vegetables for lunch. At night, add a hot bowl of black sesame glutinous rice balls. If even one item is missing, I guarantee that the palace punishment office will search Cui Hua's room the next morning. Drenched in sweat, Liuzi repeatedly agreed and swore he would obey. The very next day, the offerings in the cold palace rose to aristocratic standards. Moldy buns vanished, replaced by a steaming platter of shredded roast chicken, fragrant black sesame rice balls, and piles of paper offerings for the dead, including money and gold and silver ingots of the finest quality available in the capital. My ghostly sisters inhaled until they were completely satisfied, then floated through the air singing and dancing with delight. Unfortunately, our peaceful days were soon torn apart by the malicious ambition of that white lotus, Xiao Wanqing. Nearly a year had passed. Why had she suddenly decided to eliminate me completely? Recently, she had suffered repeated nightmares, while the emperor's favor toward her had begun to fade. That vicious woman blamed it all on foul energy and curses from the cold palace and resolved to destroy the supposed source of the calamity. That night, churning black clouds hid the moon and cold gusts shrieked through the courtyard. A masked figure secretly climbed over the ruined western wall of Chengqiu Courtyard. Moving on tiptoe, he approached the only well that supplied my drinking water, pulled a paper packet of white arsenic from inside his robe, and prepared to pour it into the well. Unfortunately for him, Chengqiu Courtyard now had a security system formed from 36 layers of yin energy. Yan Lingxiao, hovering on the roof, immediately sensed the intruder. She gave a cold snort, her murderous aura surging. The ghostly woman general moved like lightning and appeared directly behind the eunuch. Lingxiao never touched him. She simply gathered a stream of bitterly cold, resentful energy and coiled it around his throat. The eunuch could not see ghosts, but the air around him suddenly seemed to thicken. A bone-deep chill tightened around his neck until he could barely breathe, as though an invisible hand in the darkness had seized control of his life. His eyes widened in terror, and the arsenic packet fell from his hand. Overwhelmed by the sensation of suffocation, he toppled backward and flailed in panic. He was so terrified that he wet himself. "A ghost! There is a ghost! Help me! Do not kill me!" Noble consort Xiao ordered me to poison the well with arsenic. "Merciful spirits, spare my life." Lingxiao hovered with her arms folded and smiled contemptuously before withdrawing her yin energy. The eunuch scrambled away, climbed over the wall, and fled for his life, leaving the arsenic packet abandoned in the grass. When Lingxiao reported everything the next morning, fury flared inside me. I had obediently hidden in this rubbish heap without competing for favor or power. Why did that madwoman Xiao Wanqing still insist on taking my life? Since she had driven me into a corner, I would no longer behave like a coward. I slammed my palm onto the table and narrowed my eyes. 3 elder sisters, that white lotus has dared to provoke us. Tonight the cold palace goes to war. Let her learn what true spiritual despair feels like. A storm rolled in, and lightning split the sky above Kuiwei Palace. A rainy night, when yin flourished and yang weakened, was the perfect time for ghosts to run wild. During the day, noble consort Xiao loudly declared that she ate vegetarian food and prayed for the imperial family's blessings. At night, however, she locked her doors, dismissed every maid, and secretly drew an enormous garlic-roasted pork knuckle, glossy with fat, from a hidden food box. Just as she opened her mouth to bite it, an icy gust blew through the window and extinguished the candles in the corner. Su Jiangwei drifted through the closed door, her eyes glowing as she stared at the pork knuckle. Without the slightest courtesy, she pressed her face close and inhaled deeply. In an instant, the rich, fragrant pork knuckle in the consort's hands collapsed. Its golden surface turned gray and dry like a 1,000-year-old piece of wood. Jiang Wei followed with a hard gust of wind. The dried bones slipped from the consort's hand, clattered across the tiles, and rolled beneath the bed with an eerie sound. Noble consort Xiao stared in shock. Before she could scream, Yan Lingxiao summoned a vortex of resentful wind in the middle of the bedchamber. It swept across the dressing table and overturned a blue and white porcelain vase right beside the consort's face. The vase shattered on the floor, sharp fragments lodging in the fur rug. Curtains whipped wildly through the room, every lamp went out and darkness swallowed her. At the moment the consort's fear reached its peak, Yunwan Shuang floated back and forth near the ceiling. She began to sing a mournful lullaby, its eerie melody seeping into every pore and mingling with the thunder outside. Hush now, sleep well, little child. The wronged spirits have come for the wicked. Noble consort Xiao could not see any ghostly form, yet one unnatural event followed another, and roaring sounds surrounded her from every direction. She clutched her head, overwhelmed by terror, screamed until her voice broke, then collapsed unconscious on the cold floor, foaming at the mouth. At dawn, Kuiwei Palace erupted into complete chaos. The palace maids found the favored consort unconscious, burning with fever, convulsing repeatedly, and babbling about vengeful ghosts. The frightened emperor carried her to bed, summoned the imperial physicians, and urgently called in a dozen eminent monks to set up rites, sprinkle blessed water, and drive away evil. After the storm of supernatural disturbances that had devastated Kuiwei Palace, noble consort Xiao remained bedridden and sealed herself away behind closed doors. Changqiu Courtyard therefore entered a stretch of peaceful days. The most practical benefit was that little Liuzi became even more frightened of my seemingly unfathomable intelligence network. His daily tribute grew richer and more extravagant. That night, a brilliant autumn moon shone over the cracked courtyard. On the chipped wooden table, I proudly placed a superb bowl of black sesame glutinous rice balls that I had just extorted from him. Steam curled upward, carrying the sweetness of rock sugar and the warm fragrance of shredded ginger, awakening all my senses. 3 elder sisters, the feast begins. I clapped my hands and called out, crossing one leg over the other as I waited for our familiar comedy routine. 3 clouds of white mist immediately swept in from different corners and gathered around the table. Su Jiangwei was the most excited. She stretched out her pale, translucent neck, her eyes blazing like torches, pressed her ghostly face close to the bowl, and inhaled deeply. A faint stream of light rose from the rice balls and flowed into her nose. The plump, glossy rice balls collapsed and lost their springiness. Their white skins turned gray, stiff and dry like tasteless candle wax. The essence of their mortal flavor vanished at once. Smirking, I was about to tease Jiangwei for her greed when something unexpected happened. She did not rub her stomach and laugh as she usually did. Instead, she suddenly sank to her knees in midair and clutched her spectral throat with both hands. Her figure trembled violently. Dark red tears seeped from her empty eyes, fell through the air, and disappeared into nothingness. Her anguished cry tore through the night of the cold palace. Father, mother, your daughter was unfilial. Your daughter was useless. I sprang to my feet, my smile frozen. Sister Jiangwei, what is wrong? Were the rice balls poisoned? The foolish question escaped before I remembered that a ghost could hardly be poisoned. The essence of those black sesame rice balls had accidentally broken a century-old seal over the memories buried deep in her soul. The brutal truth of her past was finally exposed. Jiang Wei raised her face, crimson tears streaking her pallid cheeks, and spoke hoarsely over the howling wind. Little sister Taoyao, I was never truly hungry. For 100 years I have wandered and hidden, deceiving myself. Su Jiangwei had once belonged to the Su family of the previous dynasty, one of the realm's most loyal and honorable aristocratic clans. Her father commanded a great army, but corrupt officials joined forces to accuse him falsely of colluding with the enemy, putting all 9 branches of the clan under threat of extermination. That night, Jiang Wei received a secret letter exposing the true conspirator. It offered one last hope of reversing the case and saving her family. Just as she prepared to send it with a trusted servant, the imperial guards broke down the door and rushed in to arrest her. In that moment of utter panic, with nowhere left to run, Jiang Wei rolled the secret letter tightly, hid it among the black sesame glutinous rice balls in the bowl, then shut her eyes and swallowed everything. The letter that might have saved her family lodged in her throat and stole the final breath from a frail young woman who could barely defend herself. I crave rice balls because I hate myself. Jiang Wei covered her face and sobbed as black resentment churned around her. I wanted to bring the letter back up. I wanted to carry the evidence into the Great Hall and clear my parents' names. But I died, and the entire Su family was put to death at the execution ground. I hate that wretched bowl of rice balls. Her heartbreaking grief became a spark that ignited the vast resentment of the other two ghosts. Yan Lingxiao lost her usual arrogance and teasing smile. Her battered armor darkened as though stained by old blood. Hovering in the air, she laughed bitterly, the sound echoing across the courtyard. The Su family suffered injustice, but was my Yan family army so glorious? We were useless. The realm drowned in suffering, while the people endured the tyranny of a foolish ruler. I was called an undefeated woman general. I secretly entered the inner palace to assassinate the tyrant and rescue my elder brother from prison. Lingxiao pointed toward Tai Hall, her voice tightening with grief and bitter mockery. Who could have imagined that an assassin ready to change the fate of the realm, after preparing everything, would slip in a puddle of dog-washing water thrown out by a favored consort of the previous dynasty? I struck a jade pillar and died on the spot. That absurd death turned me into a joke, even in the underworld. My great cause was unfinished, my family was unavenged, and I died because of a dog's bathwater. How could this general ever swallow such resentment? From the shadows, Yunwan Shuang put down her invisible infant garment and floated forward, her loose hair hiding half her sorrowful face, as she gently patted Lingxiao's trembling shoulder. At least you two still carried dreams of serving the realm and fierce ambitions, Wan Shuang whispered, each word cold as winter frost. I was alone and helpless. A vicious favored consort pinned me to the floor and forced mouthful after mouthful of safflower medicine, meant to end my pregnancy down my throat. I could only watch as I lost my unborn child, a dark stain spreading across the hem of my dress. Wan Shuang lifted her face, her empty eyes filled with despair. I lost my reason and was banished to Chengqiu courtyard. Every day, I moved an invisible needle and embroidered clothes for the child I had lost. I waited endlessly for a letter saying my father was safe at the distant frontier. By the time my strength was gone and my tears had dried, they had burned all my letters and left me alone until I died. The air in Chengqiu courtyard became heavy with black resentment, cold despair, and grief. 3 tragic lives had been crushed by the enormous cage called the Imperial Palace, leaving even their souls unable to find peace. I stood frozen in the courtyard, my throat tight and my chest aching. Behind all their noisy jokes and ridiculous obsessions lay wounds that still ached and had never truly healed. They had hidden their suffering beneath mischief, searching for a little warmth in the cold spirit realm. My eyes burning, I hurried toward Su Jiangwei and reached out to embrace her thin shoulders, but my fingers passed straight through the icy mist of her body. Yin and yang stood apart, flesh and spirit could never truly touch. Helplessness surged through me. I bit my lower lip hard and hurriedly wiped away the hot tears sliding down my cheek. I, Ye Taoyao, had always cherished my life and thought first of protecting myself. I had never imagined crying for anyone else. Yet these foolish ghost women had sheltered me with their chaotic sincerity for an entire year. I would not allow my elder sisters to be tormented by resentment for even another moment. I spun around and ran as fast as I could toward Bibo Lake behind Chengqiu courtyard. Ignoring the cold night mist, I rolled up my sleeves and scooped a handful of sticky mud from the shore. Beneath the hazy moonlight, I carefully used all 10 fingers to shape it into a plump infant. Mud smeared my dress, but I did not care. When it was finished, I carried the small clay figure back to the courtyard. I tore a long strip from my silk robe. With no brush or ink, I used blood from my fingertip to carefully write each clumsy yet determined stroke on the silk. I, your father, am safe. My daughter, rest in peace. I gathered the scraps of wood I had collected the day before, carried a chipped charcoal brazier into the middle of the courtyard, struck a spark, and built a bright fire that illuminated the darkness. 3 elder sisters, listen carefully. I straightened my back, my face more solemn and proud than ever, and raised my voice until it echoed from the moss-covered walls. I threw the clay infant and the blood-written letter into the blazing brazier, its light shining across my resolute face. Su Jiangwei, under a new ruler's general amnesty, the Su family case was officially reopened. Your clan's name was cleared of its grievous injustice, and the conspirator who framed you received the harshest punishment and was put to death. Later generations have praised the Su family's loyalty. That secret letter did not go to waste. Jiang Wei went still. Her dark tears stopped as she stared at me in confusion. Drawing a deep breath, I continued inventing history with all the shameless skill I had learned in the palace. Yan Lingxiao, your Yan family army was unmatched in courage and drove the invaders away in terror. That foolish ruler was overthrown. The people remember the Yan clan's service. Temples were raised in your honor, and incense has burned there without cease for generations. The fame of the woman general shook the realm. No one remembered or cared about that puddle of dog-washing water. Lingxiao froze, and the hands gripping her armor slowly relaxed. I turned to Yun Wanshuang, my gaze filled with gentleness. Sister Wanshuang, look into the fire. Your father received word, retired from office and returned home safely. He lived to the age of 90, surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, blessed with fortune and longevity. Every festival, his descendants kneel before your memorial tablet. The child you lost has grown plump and healthy in the spirit realm and receives endless offerings of incense. The wood crackled in the brazier. The clay figure glowed red in the heat, and the silk letter became ash that floated into the quiet night sky. After wandering for 100 years and witnessing every joy, anger, love, and sorrow of mortal life, the ghosts were intelligent enough to understand that this glorious history was an outrageous fabrication invented by a sharp-tongued young talented lady. Yet in that moment, the lie carried the greatest healing power in the world. It was a lie woven from blood, tears, and the warm sincerity of a stranger who wished to soothe 3 damaged souls. They did not need the cruel truth. They needed a path that would let them release the obsessions imprisoning them. The black resentment surrounding the 3 women began to churn violently, then broke apart and dissolved like mist beneath the sun. Yan Lingxiao threw back her head and laughed freely, the sound sweeping away a century of grievance. Su Jiangwei wiped her eyes, stopped sobbing, and curved her spectral lips into a radiant smile like a peony in bloom. Yun Wanshuang's eyes filled with light as she peacefully closed them. Their figures suddenly shed their gloomy, frightening appearance. The cloudy mist around them released a clear, gentle light that shimmered beneath the moon. They became 3 warm spring breezes and circled around me. Each breeze brushed the loose hair on my cheek and passed over the bridge of my nose like a whispered word of thanks, like the deepest grateful embrace the underworld could offer. I stood silently before the fading brazier, the corner of my mouth lifting. These ghosts were unbearably noisy. They constantly floated around demanding food and complaining about everything under heaven. Yet from that day forward, I, Ye Taoyao, was determined to protect them. No matter how harsh the harem became, or how little the cold palace possessed, as long as our sisterhood stood shoulder to shoulder, darkness would never drown our bright laughter. I was fast asleep when the choking smell of smoke jolted me awake. Opening my eyes, I saw that the night sky above Chengqiu courtyard had been dyed a deep blood red. Noble consort Xiao had finally been driven truly mad. Guilt, combined with a succession of supernatural disturbances, had convinced her that the cold palace was a den of evil spirits waiting to take her life. The guilty always tried to eliminate every last threat. Taking advantage of the northern wind, she ordered her eunuch minions to soak all 4 perimeter walls with kerosene and set the courtyard on fire. They chained the only main gate shut, with iron links as thick as an arm. The oil-fed flames surged toward the sky like a giant beast opening its burning mouth to swallow everything. Scorching heat struck my face, while toxic smoke rushed into my throat and sent me into a fit of coughing. My eyes and nose streamed, and the blackened pillars began to crack and collapse. In panic, I grabbed the broken peachwood sword from the corner of the bed and ran toward the corridor window that opened toward Bibo Lake behind the courtyard. The flames had moved faster. A blazing wall of fire taller than a person completely blocked my only escape. I was surrounded on every side. The sea of fire tightened around Chengqiu courtyard, turning it into a sealed furnace. Just as I could no longer breathe and collapsed onto the heated bricks, 3 familiar clouds of white mist swept in and surrounded me. Fire was born from the fiercest yang energy in the mortal world and was the natural enemy of everything belonging to the spirit realm. The waves of heat made my 3 sisters flicker and fade until they were almost transparent. They could not endure it for long. A single touch from the mortal flames could consume what remained of their souls. Go! Run! Lying on the ground, I cried and waved my hands frantically to drive them away. Ride the wind into the sky, leave me here. It is too hot. If you stay, you will disappear. Yan Lingxiao hovered above me, her spectral armor splitting and glinting in the red light. She gave a cold snort, and her pale lips formed their usual proud smile. Stupid girl, be quiet. This general gave her word that she would protect you. Would I become a coward who turns and runs before the battle? Su Jiangwei drifted forward, her ghostly face wearing a brilliant smile like a blooming peony. For once, she did not demand rice balls. Yunwan Shuang silently moved closer, her sorrowful eyes now filled with gentle affection. They could never hold one another's hands, nor could they embrace my living body. Yet at this moment between life and death, their three streams of icy yin energy began to move. White mist intertwined, coiled together, and fused into an immense force. They were burning the spiritual power they had cultivated for 100 years, risking the destruction of their own souls to oppose the flames. The Yan family army fights to the death and never retreats. Ling Xiao raised her invisible broken sword and shouted the proudest battle cry of her life. Her voice tore through the crackle of fire. Their yin energy erupted, and a roaring, bone-cold whirlwind formed in the heart of the inferno. Carrying the final strength of 3 lives, it ripped through the wall of heat. Frost gathered, pressed back the fierce yang flames, and created a fragile path of ice, roughly 2 feet wide through the smoke, stretching from where I lay to the edge of Bibo Lake. It was the path to survival they had created for me at the cost of their own existence. Their spirit bodies began to fracture, fine cracks spreading until their forms broke into countless sparks of light, drifting like autumn fireflies. Ling Xiao's fading silhouette dissolved into smoke and flame, and her voice reached my ears. "Foolish girl, live on for your elder sisters. Go out there and see how magnificent the vast realm truly is." Su Jiangwei's sparks brushed my cheek, carrying her clear, bright laughter. "Run, after you escape, remember to offer me roast chicken often. Do not be stingy and buy cheap, stale ones." Yunwan Shuang's final voice was soft as breath. A gentle trace of cold eased the burning heat and wrapped around my heart. "Be safe, little sister." The last lights went out and scattered into the silent void. Their souls had shattered, and it might take countless ages for them to gather again. They had paid the highest price to clear every obstacle and open a road of survival for a young woman who had once been a stranger, but whom they had come to cherish. The cruel palace had destroyed 3 radiant flowers, yet the warmth in their hearts rose from the ashes and refused to die. Tears mixed with sweat and soot as they streamed down my face. I bit down hard, swept the tears away, gathered my final strength, sprang up and gripped the peachwood sword as I rushed onto the fragile icy path before the sea of fire could close again. The freezing cold beneath my feet and the burning heat on both sides pressed against me with terrifying force. I squeezed my eyes shut and ran for my life. Broken roof tiles cut into my bare feet as I ran, but I barely felt them. Physical pain was nothing beside the enormous loss tearing through my heart. The moment I escaped the wall of fire, I threw myself into the freezing water of the abandoned Bibo Lake. Burning embers drifted over the surface, reddening one corner of the sky. Beneath the dark, silent water, I held my breath and dived toward the western rocks Ling Xiao had once shown me. Cloudy mud and dense weeds blocked my path like a giant web. I swung the broken peachwood sword to cut through the plants tangling around my ankles, then desperately dug through the soft mud with my fingers. After fumbling blindly for a long while, my hand finally found the narrow stone mouth of the underground drain, slick with moss. My lungs felt ready to burst, and the last of my air left me dizzy. Clenching my teeth, I drew in my shoulders, forced myself into the dark passage, and let the swift current pull me through. My body struck the stone walls, leaving me bruised and dizzy. As I struggled along the boundary between life and death, pale autumn moonlight finally appeared above me. The pressure vanished and the passage opened. I fought my way to the surface and gulped the fresh, sweet air of freedom. The cold water of the palace moat like tears soothed my injuries. Clinging to a rock at the bank, I looked back at the magnificent but merciless palace walls as they receded into darkness. Faint cries of fire echoed from far away. The enormous birdcage that imprisoned women had finally been broken open. The noble sacrifice of those 3 pure souls had become a blazing beacon, guiding this salted fish, Yataoyao, out into the open sea and toward a proud new life. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 3 full years slipped away. From the idle conversations of traveling merchants, I heard that the splendid imperial palace had undergone earth-shaking changes. Noble consort Xiao was driven out of her mind by the supernatural events. One night, she raked the emperor's face with a hairpin. In the end, she was condemned to death in Kuiwei Palace and given the imperial white silk. The once majestic foolish ruler became consumed by fear, declined through illness, and eventually died as well. A new emperor ascended the throne, and a new reign officially began. As for me, Yi Taoyao, the official inner palace chronicle of the Great Chu dynasty, recorded only one brief, colorless line. talented Lady Yi unfortunately perished in the fire at Chengqiu Courtyard. Far away, thousands of miles from the capital, Yunshui town was blessed with lovely mountains and rivers. Peach blossoms burned red along both banks of the embankment. I sold the funerary jade hairpin I had hidden in my hair and used the silver as my starting capital. I established a small business beside the lake and named it the Old Dream Tea House. As proprietress Yi, I now lived freely and walked with my head held high. Every day I leisurely clicked my abacus and counted my growing silver. When I craved roast chicken, I spent money on 2 whole birds. I slept until noon, even after the sun had broken through the clouds, and no ghost sister came knocking with a stick to order me out of bed. I lived such a comfortable salted fish life that I sometimes woke from dreams laughing aloud. Today was the Qingming festival. Fine rain drifted through the air and pale sunlight filtered through a thin veil of mist, scattering golden fragments across the quiet lake. I hung a closed to guests sign outside the tea house and carefully carried a small wooden table to the breezy riverbank. For the past 3 years, in rain or sunshine, I had continued to burn incense and offer countless delicacies. Day after day I murmured prayers, hoping to gather the shattered pieces of my 3 elder sisters' souls. Today I arranged the table with painstaking care. A steaming bowl of black sesame glutinous rice balls, an exquisitely hand-carved peachwood sword with a sharpened edge, and a child's outfit embroidered with a white plum branch rising through the morning mist. I must emphasize that my needlework had now reached an extraordinary level. It no longer resembled the disaster of a crippled, featherless duck from years ago. Finally, I poured 3 cups of shimmering, pink peach blossom wine and placed them neatly along the edge of the table. A gentle mountain breeze arrived, carrying peach petals that fluttered down around me. Pollen sparkled in the sunlight and mingled with the hazy stream of incense. Slowly, it gathered into a breathtaking vision. Heaven did not disappoint those with sincere hearts. The scattered traces of resentment from years before had finally been pieced together by steadfast devotion. The faint figures of 3 women appeared with their arms linked, seated leisurely in midair around the wooden table. They would always remain spirits, their forms only mist and smoke, forever unable to touch the objects of the mortal world. Yet miraculously, all 3 stretched their pale necks toward the table and inhaled deeply. The steaming black sesame rice balls collapsed slightly. Their glossy white skins turned dry and gray, like tasteless candle wax. They had fully enjoyed the essence of mortal flavor. At once cheerful, noisy voices rang in my ears, as lively as the marketplace that Chengqiu Courtyard had once become. "Wonderful, Taoyao. Your rice ball making skills have improved beyond recognition. These are better than anything from the imperial kitchen." Su Jiangwei's excited voice was followed by an eager smack of her lips. Eating is the only thing you excel at," Yan Lingxiao's proud, ringing voice declared as the wind swept across the peachwood sword. "Still, I admit this outfit is beautifully embroidered. You have finally escaped the fate of wearing a sack over your head." This general offers her praise. Then Yun Wanshuang's voice flowed gently, soft as autumn water. "It is beautiful, little sister. You did very well. Remember to dress warmly. Do not let the cold wind slip through your clothes." The familiar, noisy, chaotic scene stirred a storm within me. My throat tightened, my nose stung, and my eyes reddened. Salty tears rolled down my cheeks and fell onto the back of my hand. I had once sworn that I would never cry, yet before the spirits who had risked everything for me, my tears refused to obey reason. I drew a deep breath and forced down the sob rising in my chest. I hurriedly wiped my tears with my sleeve, raised my own cup of peach blossom wine toward the floating vision, and proudly offered the brightest smile I could, beneath the spring sunlight warming the realm. "This little skill is nothing. Elder sisters, remember to bless my business with good fortune. Next year, I will build an entire shrine and offer each of you a whole roast chicken. Come, sisters, a toast." The wind swept over the lake again. The wavering vision laughed, then dissolved into the silent void. Incense smoke rose toward the boundless blue sky, carrying countless sincere prayers to the people I loved most. The end.